And good morning. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio, and that means the Chief Grand Poobah is in the house. Stan the Fan Charles is back here in studio with us. It's great to see you, and happy National Donut Day, my friend.
Thank you.
I
brought you guys
quite kind
a donut.
Stand.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, right.
And I stuck to, for now, the glazed donut rather than the powdered
I believe
donut.
it to be a superior donut. I have said that for a very long time.
Didn't have quite enough glaze on it today, but I guess maybe that's why that's 240 calories to 350 for the powdered.
And as we were talking about last week, if you want to lose weight, eat more glazed donuts. We've been saying that for a long time.
I may write a book on
Sure.
the glazed donut diet.
I like that idea, actually. I think that's really good.
More likely would be to put out a calendar with each month being a fat guy.
Well, wait a second. We already did that calendar.
No, that was the sexy calendar.
That was the sexy calendar. So do you remember Joe Ganascoli, who played Vito on The Sopranos?
Yes.
So I remembered Joe used to come around Super Bowl week and, sit in with it. He was just one of those guys that was always there, right? Like, whatever, somebody had him promoting something. Like, here's a water jug that has a team logo on it. Go around the Super Bowl. It was just every year. And one year he was telling us that he was going to be on this this celebrity weight loss show. And I swear to everything holy, I saw him take a donut, dip it in water, then remove the donut and drink the water because he wanted it to taste like the donut.
What kind of donut? Was it a glazed donut?
I believe it was a glazed donut, yes.
Gotta love
it. Powdered donut wouldn't taste very much.
No, yeah. Oh, Joe Ganascoli, man.
He's the best.
I do love him.
Oh,
I love him, but that was disturbing. That was a disturbing... It was one of those things.
You didn't try it right after?
No. And in fact, in hindsight, maybe I should have.
Yeah.
It almost derailed our entire conversation where I just said, "What did you just do?" And he was like, I can't eat donuts because I'm doing this weight loss thing, but I want to get the taste of a donut." And so he just dunked the donut, swirled it around in the water, and then removed the donut and drank the water.
Big story, by the way. You saw the story the other day that Gervonta Davis is buying Kevin Plank's apartment.
Did you see this?
Well, now he's gonna be able to stay there for 90 days.
Well, apparently he
taken into custody amid 90-day house arrest.
Right. I think that the word was he's got to go to jail. That he violated his house arrest and is going to have to serve the rest of the time.
I don't think there's too many people are going to mess with Gervonta Davis.
Now that I believe it'd be quite the mistake for you to.
I wouldn't mess with him if he walked in here.
I certainly would not. I'd say, can we get you? What can we get you?
Can we get you
what can
donut
we get you?
or some donut
100%.
juice?
Some donut water. Would you like a lovely donut water this morning? Good to see you.
Probably like it.
Coming up on
Clark's bottled donut water.
I mean, if it works for Joe Ganascoli, I don't know. Maybe he was onto something. Did he ever end up losing the weight? I guess I haven't seen
there was
Joe
a big
in
transformation in The Sopranos, obviously. Was that what he was losing the
No,
weight
this
for?
would have been after this.
Okay.
This I think, this would have been after The Sopranos.
Okay.
This would have been somewhere around like 09, somewhere in that range. So I don't know what the deal was. Coming up on the program this morning, the legendary Jon Miller is going to join us, the Hall of Fame
broadcaster.
No question. I don't know. I was thinking about this last night, Stan. How many broadcasters in history are as equally beloved in two separate cities as Jon Miller is? And I don't know, I would really have to think about that because you associate typically a broadcaster with the city. Maybe Don Orsillo is becoming that way. I think that
in Boston?
Well, he was always that way in Boston.
Right.
Now that he's ended up in San Diego.
Oh, he's in San Diego.
I think because Don Orsillo is so good, man. He's unbelievable. I think that he is on his way to having that type of legacy in both cities.
Yeah.
Of course,
John also has a national
100% from ESPN
constituency
right.
that listened to him, watched him for years doing the Sunday night baseball games.
Jon Miller will join us as the Orioles and Giants open up a series tonight.
Is he okay to talk to me? Did he make?
I did not hear any story about an issue that he had with you. I think we're
we
good.
We used to be pretty good friends, John
really?
and I. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, John's the best. I mean, there is no getting around. Jon Miller is a legend in every sense of the word. We're looking forward to that this morning. And then a more local legendary broadcasting figure, the great Dave Johnson from down in D.C., But he's made stops in Annapolis, stops in I think he lives.
He's hated through 2 cities, isn't he?
Wow, is that what it is? Man, I didn't realize that.
Just kidding.
Dave, in addition to doing the Wizards, in addition to doing WTOP, in addition to doing DC United, Dave is now the part owner of a new soccer team called the Annapolis Blues that's playing at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium and playing their first home game this weekend, and they're looking to set like a league attendance record. They're trying to get somewhere in the 9,000 to 10,000 range. So we're going to talk to him about what this team is, where it came from, all of those things.
They were mentioned last night on our Zoom that Gary and I did with Terry Hasseltine that, that there's definitely a lot of interest in them.
I think it would go a long way. It's going to be very difficult for I say this. We're all disappointed the World Cup didn't come to this area. It's extraordinarily disappointing. There are still more soccer opportunities to be had in the coming years. Perhaps a Women's World Cup.
There's going to be a double-header in late July at FedEx Field.
Yes, for the Premier League.
And the state of Maryland has been promised several years of that game. And Terry Hasseltine was very specific to say that it's going to be in the state of Maryland, not necessarily at FedEx Field every time.
So it could alternate.
He could see it coming to Baltimore.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So we're going to talk to Dave Johnson about that. And, again, if you missed Stan, Gary Stein, Terry Hasseltine last night, you can find it, facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Click on the videos tab. Go to youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video in order to see it. Stan, weird stretch that the Orioles are in right now where we're trying not to be hyperbolic about it. We're trying not to be over the top. But
that's what happens when you start caring about
really,
results.
When the results matter and when it's a string of – it's not just they lost games. It's that they were losing games and the offense was struggling. It's that they were losing games and then Grayson Rodriguez was a mess and had to be sent down.
And then the bullpen.
And then the bullpen, it was a disaster the other night. And then you lose Cedric Mullins. It's everything kind of all at once. And again, if you're going to have it happen.
What's the name of that movie?
Everything Everywhere, All at Once. It's how it's felt for the Baltimore Orioles over the course of the last 2 weeks. Let's kind of go piece by piece today if we could. Yeah. Let me start with where you are with Grayson's spot in the rotation. And in hindsight, I think we're all very confused as to why that was their plan for this game 2 days ago on Wednesday, as opposed to just calling up Cole Irvin again.
Well, they couldn't call him up. He had to stay down 10 days.
But with Cedric Mullins getting hurt,
there could have been a way to maneuver.
They could have used his injury to call up. Now, I get it. They wanted to get Aaron Hicks on the roster, so they decided to prioritize that over it. But in hindsight, you could have always sent down Keegan Aiken to make room for Aaron Hicks.
Mm-hmm.
Why not use that opportunity to have Cole Irvin make a start instead of doing whatever that was?
We'd have to have Mike Elias on to answer that, really, because they have seemed somewhat reluctant to pencil in a guy that they acquired and gave up a nice prospect in Darryl Hernandez. So I expect the next turn that we will get Cole Irvin back in the starting rotation. And I think this time, I'm not predicting he's going to be an all-star, but I think this time we will get more of the Cole Irvin where you get 6+ innings out of a starting pitcher.
They have definitely he's had a much better track record in May and has looked to settle
very
down
well in Norfolk
after what was not just a disaster start at the major league level, but his start
first 1 or 2 starts wasn't good down there, but he's 6-1 now with an ERA of just over 3. He's a little bit. We usually use that term with hitters. He's a streaky hitter.
Mm-hmm.
He's a streaky pitcher.
It seems
last year, after his first 3 starts with the A's last year in 2022, from then till the middle or late August, like around August 20th, his earned run average was well under 3 runs a game, and his whip was about 1. And then he had about 5 starts in a row, because his season ERA ended up being 3.98, and his WHIP was like 140. These 5 starts were just horrific. So hopefully we can get him up, and with better defense behind him, than he had in Oakland, we can start to see some of the reasons that they acquired him. Because right now, it's been odd. It really has.
I think there's 2 questions that I had to follow it up. The first being, do you wonder if there's any reluctance to commit to someone as being the 5th? So they have a bunch of off days this month, right?
Yeah.
So they don't need a 5th.
6, right?
That sounds
including
right.
Yesterday.
Including yesterday, yeah. And then like the next 3 Mondays, they're all off. And then there's a week where they only have
Thursdays in a row that
correct.
They have off too. Yeah.
So
I worked it out because my Zooms are on Mondays and Thursdays.
Perfect.
I worked
Look,
it out
look
with
at how
MLB.
you nailed that. Look at how you
Rob
got that
Manfred
right.
And I are
quite respectful.
very
of
tight.
him.
Yeah.
I think they were just scared to go up against you. I think that was really what it was. Is they said,
well,
we could play this game, but nobody's going to be watching because they're all going to be watching Stan and Ross and Luke on Monday.
I remind everybody that those Zooms can be consumed after the Oriole game.
They could be.
Yeah, I know the live product is.
It's more dangerous when it's live. You never know. Like there could be a nip slip or something like that.
My nickname was Johnny Dangerous.
Yeah, Johnny Dangerous. I wonder if they're reluctant to give the spot to someone because they have so many off days and they don't necessarily right. For example, they certainly don't need to have a pitcher on Wednesday. They could make it until Saturday before they would need a 5th starter next week, and then they have the situation again the following week where they wouldn't need a starter on Wednesday. They would only need a starter on Saturday. And if, in a way, they're sort of saying, hey, we still expect this to be Grayson's spot in the rotation, we're just trying to get him reset down there for a few starts, and so they don't really want to commit to someone as being the 5th starter right now, and they were hoping that they could do the Austin Voth, Keegan Aiken bit for the few days that they need starters until they get through this stretch where they have so many off days.
Right. That could be what they're thinking is. To me, I'm not looking at Grayson Rodriguez as being down for a brief reset. Now, that may entirely be, I may be totally wrong, and they just want him to get 2 good games under his belt, and then he's back here. They had a reason for acquiring Cole Irvin, and it's not as if the starting rotation, even Tyler Wells, that they're just overwhelmingly good.
No.
That, they're averaging, Glenn, about 5 innings a start. That means 4 innings a night. Brandon Hyde has to work his magic, around who's rested, who's not rested.
Yeah, it's particularly frustrating on a night where you were up 7-0 in the second inning and you had to use your A bullpen and 1+ innings of Yanier Cano to make him unavailable the next day.
Yeah.
Very frustrating when that type of scenario plays out. I agree with you in that sense, and I do think there's something to be said for Cole Irvin. I also still think there's an issue with having Grayson Rodriguez pitch so many innings at AAA because if you believe that he can be helpful for your team this season and late in the year.
But here's my point, and I did the study on it, and I wrote about it for the new print issue that comes out next week, in 2 weeks. The problem with Grayson Rodriguez, and this isn't a criticism of Dan Duquette, it's not a criticism of Mike Elias, because this little thorny problem called the pandemic happened in 2020. If you go back to 2018 and look at Grayson's innings pitched numbers, okay? He threw about 75 innings that year. 2019, he was up to 103 innings in 23 starts.
Right, he was.
They've been so careful parceling out his innings. At a certain point, you what's it? You bite your nose to spite your face. They've got to develop the pitcher first rather than worry about how many innings he's got in his arm at the age of 23 or 24 years old. So I'm not that worried about where he gets the innings in this year. They need to be productive development innings, because I don't know what you're looking at or what anybody else that would say that this is a brief reset and that they've got to get him back up here. He showed me very little of greatness that he's got to be up. They got to get the development part first, and then you can worry about how many innings he's thrown.
I understand what you're saying. I would say I think the talent was obvious. I think that
there's no question the talent's
it
there.
came off to me more mental. The center stuff was, it's unfathomable. He made unfathomable pitches in frustrating situations. It's two different ways to skin that cat. Is it mental? Is it just to your point? It's got to be repetitive.
Part of the mentality, though, Glenn, is the development part of becoming a major league pitcher. He was trying to pitch to hitters the third time around for the first time in his professional career at the major league level. That's part of the development. Is I'm just trying to think. If you took Dan Straley.
Okay.
And looked at Dan Straley, and he only pitched as a starting pitcher in the minor leagues 3 2/3 innings, 4 1/3. He was never put out in the deep water of pitching 6 2/3, 7 1/3. He never developed how to get hitters out. And if you look at the damage, most of the damage, I know he had first inning problems on a couple starts, but it's the guys hitting the home runs off of him were third time through the order.
I feel like there's a question of whether or not, and again, this goes back to the thing that we talked about before, whether or not he should have even been facing. But that comes back to the problem that you have with how overtaxed your bullpen is. So let's go to the next level, which is, and we discussed this yesterday, at what point do we have to say
you got to
CNL Perez?
CNL Perez.
Like, at what point does it become? We talked about it's easy to do that when we thought it was Dylan Tate that was going to be replacing him, and you felt like, look, if we got to make a roster spot, we can't justify this any longer. Now you're talking about doing it for just to do it, essentially.
The bullpen, and this was very interesting. I gave Mike Elias great credit for not making the assumption that the 2023 bullpen was going to be every bit as good as the 2022 bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he went out and spent significant dollars. What is Givens making, by the way? Is it $6 million?
I thought it was seven. I'll get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it seems like it's about $6 million too much right now. I mean, this is a guy who's been a very competent. He's just been. He's
5, by the way.
$5 million. Okay, well, that's not as bad as 7.
Yeah.
He has been absolutely awful. Let's face it, the combination of Perez's performance, the overuse of the bullpen, and Perez's performance, it's been like a hand grenade that's blown up in Brandon Hyde's face. It's been absolutely awful, and it's fueled every night by the fact that he's got to get 4 2/3 innings every night out of the same 4 or 5 guys.
I have come around to it kind of doesn't matter if you don't have a better option. You have to try something else. You just can't.
I wonder if that DL Hall guy could
maybe help out in the bullpen. Yeah, I wonder if that would be a benefit. There's also a part of me, by the way, that goes back to the starting where it, like, as much as I agree that it should be Cole Irvin's spot, I keep coming back to, but I sort of just want them to put DL Hall in the rotation so we can get this experiment over with, so we can just get whatever your obsession is with DL Hall as a starting pitcher. Let's get through that part. Let him be the guy every 5th day, and then if it doesn't work, let's move on.
One of the dangerous things about I've never been the smartest guy in the room, so it's not a problem.
No,
it's not a problem that I've had. But one of the dangerous things about being very smart is you're not used to asking for help or advice, and you get stubborn when something isn't happening the way you need it to happen or the way you've kind of predicted it to happen. And I think they're in a little bit of a bind with that with DL Hall. They've sort of yo-yoed,
Right.
It's got to be one of the most bizarre stories, Glenn, how they brought him up last year, had that one start, and then said, okay, we sort of agree he's a bullpen guy. And the results were, I won't say totally mixed. I think there was more positive than negative.
I tend to agree.
And all of a sudden the season ends and they go, we're going to go back to him. It just made no sense.
I don't get it at all. I don't get it even a little bit. But I do think that I think that you're at the end of the rope with Perez. Yeah. I don't think you can continue to live in fear of
somebody else is going to get him.
I think at this point you have to assume, we can find another CNL Perez at that point. Like, I just don't think you can continue to throw him out there.
I just don't know what they're going to do with Givens. Givens looks, first of all, Do you agree, or am I seeing it? He looks like he's put on 20 pounds since the last time I saw him pitching for the Orioles.
And that's okay. That would be the compare, because I don't know what he looked like last year. I wasn't paying close enough attention to know exactly like what.
Well, they should have.
I don't
his
disagree with
numbers
that.
weren't horrible.
No,
last
not at
year.
all. I think that you have to give that a bit more time in hopes that it's still just him ramping up.
I would think that Dan Duquette by now would say, "Oh, he's tweaked his, groin, and he's got to go on a rehab. Rest up for a week, and then something is wrong. Something's rotten in Denmark with
it is
Michael
wretched.
Givens."
And now for
what it is worth, he was listed at 230 in 2019 with the
He's
Orioles.
250
now he's 250.
There
Listed
you
at
go.
250.
There you go. The Cedric Mullins situation was obviously devastating for a number of reasons, but the most significant being he's been your best player. He's been this team's best player this season.
He's even been better than Adley in terms of what he's produced this year.
I pointed out when I wrote that column 2 weeks ago that it's almost unfathomable, but he had a higher WAR than Adley Rutschman did at that point. And I would have to look to see what it is today because I haven't checked in a little while. There's nothing that you can do to replace Cedric Mullins. That doesn't work. They were interested in Aaron Hicks, according to them, before Cedric Mullins got hurt. And the one part of that makes a little bit of sense is, for as bad as Aaron Hicks has been, he actually was somewhat hitting lefties this season, and the Orioles had not been hitting lefties very well. Do we have an update on Aaron Hicks, by the way? Is he like?
I haven't seen one.
I didn't see one yesterday either after he left the game. So, one day, and he's out. A lot of consternation among Orioles fans. Obviously, one of two things is going to happen in the next couple of weeks. Either they're going to prove to be right about Cedric Mullins. It's going to be weeks, not months. And, within this, maybe before or around mid-June, they'll start to have an opportunity to get Cedric Mullins back. Or Colton Cowser will have come back, and that will be their opportunity to have Colton Cowser come up and play every day until Cedric Mullins returns.
Here's my opinion what's going on. First of all, I'd probably rather have a switch-hitting Aaron Hicks than a switch-hitting Terran Vavra on my team, just to begin with right now. But
I guess the argument against would be Vavra's versatility, that he can play a few more positions.
Yeah, but they've got that covered with Urias and Frazier being able to be versatile. But I'd rather have – I'll tell you what, I'd rather have Jordan Westberg.
So that's what I wanted to get to.
But getting back to Cowser, I think what we're going to see with Hicks is a brief, almost like a Brett Phillips last year glimpse of him. If somehow he produces the way he did yesterday with 2 singles and a walk in 3 at-bats, if he's producing at some level that's more than just average, I think he's going to stick on the roster, and you'll see Vavra go back down when Mullins is ready. But I think if he's really they do a quick once-over on him and go, this just isn't going to play, I think Cowser is in 12 days when he's back playing. You can't have a player make his major league debut on his rehab.
Correct. That does not work, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think what you just brought up is what a lot of Orioles fans were feeling this week is, no, it's not an obvious answer because Jordan Westberg doesn't play center field.
Right.
But isn't this the appropriate time to shuffle the deck chairs and say, if we need – Aaron Hicks can't replace Cedric Mullins because no one can really replace Cedric Mullins. But that if you need a boost this team needed an offensive boost with Cedric Mullins. If you need an offensive boost to say, let's bring up someone who is a hot bat, who we have reason to believe can be a quality major league hitter, and let's shuffle the deck chairs as necessary in order to figure out how to get him into the lineup.
And what further backs that idea up, Glenn, is, and it's quite possible that's what they end up doing, is they touted that the acquisition of Adam Frazier was because he could play the corner outfield spots. So the best guy to play center field, even when Aaron Hicks is healthy, is Austin Hayes right now.
I agree.
Defensively. Hicks can play left field, and you got to keep your eye on him because he really did deteriorate defensively. But I don't think it's above and beyond the possibility that it was big contract, New York failing, that there was just so much pressure on Aaron Hicks
Okay.
there that he might just be relaxed at a different level here in Baltimore.
Maybe that's the
that,
case.
You know,
Maybe that's the case. But
I hope it's good for the Orioles.
But your point seems to be that
They gave him a terrible number, though.
Oh, then it's not going to work. Yeah, right. There's just
Number
no way.
34.
You can't.
Name me a 34 in the Oriole history.
Kevin Gausman. They give him Kevin Gausman's number.
Gausman was 39 and 38.
Was I wrong? Am I wrong about Gausman?
Yeah.
He's
Sitting
wearing
here.
34
He
now.
might have had 3 numbers.
Hang on a second.
Gausman was definitely 39. Also one of the worst Oriole uniform numbers.
Hang on a second. Let's see. The uniform history of the Baltimore
Was
Orioles.
Kevin
34.
Miller?
Storm Davis was number 34.
Nelson Bryles wore 34.
Yeah.
There's not a lot. There's not a lot there that you know.
He did wear. Gausman did wear 34 at one point.
When Fernando Valenzuela was in Baltimore, he wore 34. When Chris Benson was in Baltimore, he wore number 34.
By the way, whatever happened to Anna Benson?
That's a great question. Whatever happened to Anna Benson?
Which loony bin is she part of?
I swear to God, when I was working at 105.7 the first time around,
right.
The day that they acquired Chris Benson,
right, you had Anna on.
Well, we definitely had Anna on, but I had a certain person who was in charge over there, who's still a very important person in that company. So I'm not gonna, but walk in and say we need to hire her and give her 2 hours every day. And I said,
that's radio programming at its best.
I don't think that's a great idea. But thank you for employing me. I did not. Apparently, Brooks wore
Brooks
number
Robinson
34 in 1956.
I guess is that
Brooks
when he came
Robinson.
up? Yeah.
I had no recollection of that whatsoever.
I don't remember that at all.
That he had.
Those were in the days when the 34 was probably like 69, 72. You know.
I'm pulling up.
Anyway,
Matt Albers. Oh God, Matt Albers wore number 34. Eek.
Yeah, not a great number.
And Jake Arrieta apparently briefly wore number 34.
That was
Kevin Millwood is who I was thinking.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. So if they were to consider Westberg, map it out for me. You're saying Westberg plays second, Frazier moves to left field?
To left field against right-handed pitching, probably. Yeah, that's how I would suss that out.
I think that would be because I do think there's the second layer to this question too, which is how long do you stick this out with Jorge Mateo?
Yeah.
Like I think that part we have to cover at some point.
It's becoming part of the conversation. There's no question about it.
And it's very difficult because I get it. He is a very good defensive shortstop. And I would worry that in their mind, if it's not Mateo, it has to be Ortiz.
Right.
That they wouldn't want to potentially take a step back, even if we think that Westberg can play the position, fine at a solid level, that they would say it either has to be more Mateo or it's going to have to be Ortiz. We have to have a high-level shortstop so that they wouldn't do Westberg.
Shortstop is not the position you want to jerk around with. It's just too important, and I think we agree that Gunnar Henderson, part of his recent success, has been the stabilizing factor of just playing him at third base. I think that's part of it.
And they need they need Gunnar Henderson's bat to come. They need him to be focused on producing offensively because that in order for this team to accomplish anything of significance, it's going to have to involve Gunnar Henderson being a significantly better offensive player as the season
especially
goes
against
on.
the right-handers.
No question
about it. And one last thing about the Oriole offense, is there anybody in this room, and there's only 3 of us here, and I'm raising my hand, that would like to see, against the really tough right-handed pitchers, Ryan O'Hearn get some first base starts?
Interesting.
I am really tired of, and this is not a total bash of Ryan Mountcastle.
No, but there's some really non-productive.
He's hitting .233.
Yep.
His on-base percentage is .271. He struck out 55 times to 11 walks. Look, there's a reason
I would
Ryan.
go, even some of those strikeouts are completely uncompetitive. Non-competitive
they
strikeouts.
really are.
They're just he's never in the at bat.
There's like 15 or 18 of those 55 that aren't even competitive.
Yep.
And look, I'm not saying that Ryan O'Hearn is the answer. There's a reason he's a journeyman type of player. But I'm not also saying give him the job full time. I'm not even saying make it a platoon. I'm saying, does he have to start every game and bat fourth? You know, they did drop him the other night to sixth in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you. Even Santander start putting and then you can DH Gunner instead of taking Gunner completely out of the lineup, or I mean, literally anyone else.
They want Arias in the lineup. To be clear, they want him on the field.
Yeah.
You know,
but O'Hearn is the guy that is sort of his performance is screaming like, let me play him 2 or 3 times a week.
I don't disagree with that.
It doesn't have to be at the expense of Mountcastle every time.
Right.
And I'll tell you another thing about him. Every time I watch him play the outfield, I go, this guy's a pretty solid outfielder.
He's competent. There's no question about that. There's no question. All right. Today's show brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range.
How are we going to get by the first half hour of this show?
I don't know how we're going to handle that. Comes in a range. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Orioles do open up a series tonight in San Francisco again in about 30 minutes. Jon Miller will join us. But before that, obviously, Game 1 of the NBA Finals last night. We'll talk about the dominance of the Denver Nuggets, and we'll talk about the possibility of DeAndre Hopkins in Baltimore. Stan and I haven't chatted about that yet either. So we'll do those things when we come back in. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
The All-America Senior Game powered by New Balance will be back at Johns Hopkins Homewood Field on July 29th. The most decorated girls and boys lacrosse players in the country have been invited to play in what is the premier lacrosse event of the year. Every college coach wants their players in this game, and if you dream of being in this game, you start by trying out for one of your regional underclass teams this summer. The best against the best. Get your tickets now at allamericalacrosse.com.
The Orioles are off and running, out to prove that last season wasn't a fluke, and they are one of the best teams in baseball. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, host of the Bat Around for PressBox. Tune in every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon as Zach Goodman and I break down every Adley bomb, every Tony Tater, and every save from the mountain. Like a warm hug from Rutschman, the Bat Around has you covered with all things Orioles as we embark on what's sure to be a magical summer in Birdland. So tune in every Saturday for the best in Orioles coverage right here on the Bat Around.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get. So get your crab eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge, 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
If you need more of Glenn, you can also hear him every Sunday with Rita on 105.7 The Fan. But also, if you need more of Glenn, what's wrong with you?
It is a fair question. I ask that myself constantly. Hey, PressBox is offering new sports bettors the best sign-up bonuses and promos from the 7 legal online sports books. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers right now and get offers like $150 in bonus bets from DraftKings after you place your first $10 bet, or up to $1,250 in bonus bets from Caesars. Time is limited to get the best offers from all of the sports books, but you got to go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers in order to sign up today. Stan the Fan Charles is in studio with us this morning. Stan, did you watch the basketball game last night?
Yes, I did. Although I had a major issue last night.
Oh.
My friend Boogie Wineglass has been in town for about 5 weeks. and we've been watching a lot of basketball together. It's a way he can get out of the house, and he loves watching his hoops. So he asked me, he said, hey, I'm not going to be over till 9:10, 9:15. Can you tape the game?
Okay.
And we had done that the week before. And I went to my thing, where it came up. And last night, number one, it had the score on the thing.
That's not great.
And then I click it, and it went right to live action.
Oh, it skipped past everything that you had recorded.
I don't understand why. I still don't understand why.
I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that either, Stan, to be honest with you.
Mm.
I'm not terribly surprised by how Game 1 unfolded.
No, I wasn't.
I'm not going to be surprised if this is just kind of how the series goes. I think the Nuggets are definitively better. For what it's worth, they were definitively better out of the chute, and Miami still kept hanging around and kept keeping it within like 8 points for a while, and you did wonder if maybe they had that one big run in them. The problem is when the big run came, they were down by 21 points, and even their big run only got them back within 10 in the fourth quarter, and then
they once got to 9.
They got to 9 at one point, and then that got snuffed out.
Because the only Miami Heat player that showed up was Haywood Highsmith.
Yeah, Haywood Highsmith, oddly, the Baltimore native, was what did he have, 15 last night? What did he finish with?
Yeah, he had 18 off the bench in 23 minutes.
Seldom used in these playoffs. They go to him because they got a team that's been. Who else did they use? They used somebody else last night that I hadn't played a ton. Yeah, well, he got in at the end.
Oh, that's
of the
right.
game,
Yeah,
right?
you're right.
I thought there was somebody else that they used among.
Duncan
Did
Robinson.
Alonzo Mourning get in?
I don't think Alonzo got in at any point. I'm not trying to utterly write off the Heat.
No, they've got a lot of heart.
There's no question about that.
The championship gene that they have that runs from Pat Riley to Eric Spoelstra, it showed itself by winning that game in Boston. So I wouldn't outright dismiss them, but if they get beat Sunday night and they get beat decisively Sunday night, then turn off the lights, the party's over.
I just kind of think that's the story here. I think the story is it's not about the Heat. It's the Nuggets they're a tank. This is Nikola Jokic didn't even play all that well last night, like by his standards.
Right.
I understand what you're about to tell me. Go ahead, read his numbers.
At 27.
Yep.
14 assists.
Yep.
10. So only 10 rebounds.
He wasn't up to
one
by
block.
Nikola Jokic standards. That was kind of a pedestrian effort from him.
Only one 3-pointer.
He wasn't really going in the first half. He was just sort of because he didn't have to be.
I mean, 8 assists in the first quarter.
I understand, but he didn't have to be assertive. It was interesting
because he was so assertive. I think in the first quarter. I mean, because he had like 4 points in the first quarter.
He attempted like 3 shots in the entire first half. Like he just was not. But look, he didn't have to be. They were willing to collapse on him, and then he kicked it out, and that's what he does so well.
We asked Scott Hastings that question last Friday about the altitude issue.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that might help them is that they were getting I'd have to believe they were out there since probably
that
Monday.
was part of the story. They flew out immediately after Game 7.
To get accustomed. So maybe they get a little boost by really being acclimated by Sunday. But I know one thing: they will not go down without a fight.
No, even when they were down 21 in the fourth quarter last night, it would have. I think it would have been easy for some coaches to say, let's empty the bench. Let's not waste all of our energy on this one. Game 2 is significant. But I think what Eric Spoelstra has found is that by having those guys gut it out for even the fourth quarter in a game where it doesn't look like you're going to win, they're getting more continuity out of that. And they're building something that has worked for them during the course of this postseason.
Yeah. There's one other factor that could play into it, but it's interesting. Jokovic's post-game interview with what's her name from Baltimore,
Lisa Salters.
Yeah, Lisa Salters. He said, we really respect this team. They're a great club, and all that. It would be them coming out and thinking, kind of, in my opinion, what happened to Boston in Game 7 was, God, we just won 3 in a row. Yeah. We're just show up and there was no effort. You got to have the effort against that team, because they're going to come at you.
I agree. I think it's a 5-game series. I think that
it would look that way right now.
So that was Game 1 of the NBA Finals. As Stan pointed out, Game 2 is Sunday night at
8 o'clock,
not at 8:30.
Not 8:30.
8 o'clock on Sunday night. So yes, Well, I just
why are they doing that?
That happened to me one year during the finals where
Yeah.
I was just used to the games being at 8:30.
Why
I tuned
are
in.
they
I was
doing that? I mean, why not just keep the continuity of 8:30?
I mean, I guess
network TV is really lined up for
8 o'clock, and it's a Sunday, and they would say they want the kids to be able to watch more of the game because schools aren't out just yet. Yeah. So I think next week is when school ends in most places. So I can sort of see why they would want to do it. Some people would say it's a Sunday. Why not do it at 7, right? But I get it. I'm used to 8:30. You've told me the game's starting at 8:30. Let me watch an 8:30 game and plan around it. AJ Michaels, heating, AC, plumbing, home
AC
performance.
season is
here.
upon us.
It's
man.
here.
90 degrees next week.
Damn right it is.
And there's 90 today, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is.
And there's a reason. My kid had this is the last week of lacrosse season for my 8-year-old. The previous week was the last week for the 5-year-old, and he had a game yesterday at 5 o'clock, and it was miserable. I mean, it was just sticky and awful, and nobody was happy. It was a terrible. And he was, by the way, he was good for about, he played really well for the first half. And I was like, man, this might be the best that Graham's played all season. And then in the second half, he was completely just gone.
Gassed.
Just gone. Nothing. But they won their playoff game. So, we're marching on. Marching on in the semifinals now on Saturday morning. There's a reason why AJ Michaels is expert and award-winning, because they're going to help you improve your home's energy and efficiency and comfort levels. New rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com. Stan, before the show today, you asked me a question. Where's DeAndre Hopkins going to end up?
Yep.
I wrote about it for PressBox this week because I don't think it's absurd that the Ravens would be in the conversation for DeAndre Hopkins despite everything they have.
Right.
But it's a twofold issue that I'm dealing with. I get the concept. There's only so many players available. You've got, based on the Lamar Jackson contract, you've got some cap space right now.
Right.
The likelihood of a DeAndre Hopkins caliber player at a position of greater need. So that's one thing that's brought up a couple of times. A cornerback, a rush end. It's extraordinarily unlikely that there's going to be a DeAndre Hopkins caliber cornerback that's going to become available, or a DeAndre Hopkins caliber pass rusher that's going to become available. You kind of are where you are. You had to hold the money because you needed to get if you weren't going to get a deal done with Lamar Jackson, you were going to have to pay him the franchise tag value, so you weren't able to get into that level of free agency. It's a shame that it worked out that way, but that's where you are. Yep. You can't change it now. I think there is an argument for, well, this is what's out there. Just try to put the absolute best roster on the field that you possibly can.
And that putting the extra money toward offense can't really hurt you.
If you're going to have a problem in your secondary, one way to maybe make up for it is to be better suited
points.
to score 30 points a game.
Yeah.
On the flip side, I am enamored with the idea that the possibility the Ravens have in front of them for the first time in franchise history, having a duo of wide receivers that you could potentially build around for the next 5 years. We've never had that in Baltimore. We very rarely had one. The times where the Ravens have had two receivers, it's always been the pairing of a young receiver, a Torrey Smith, with a veteran, an Anquan Bolden, a Steve Smith that was later in their career.
Right.
We've never seen this possibility. For 1 year, they had Marquise Brown and Rashad Bateman on the field together, but that was a fleeting, and they moved on from it very quickly. I don't want anything to hurt the development of Rashad Bateman or Zay Flowers, because I think you have this unique possibility of having a special duo. So I admit that I'm kind of torn about this DeAndre Hopkins thing. I don't think it can be.
What would happen? Could they acquire DeAndre Hopkins and trade Bateman?
They could.
I mean, would he have value, or you'd be selling low?
I think you'd be not pennies on the dollar.
Right.
I think you'd be selling like
80
to 85 cents on the dollar, right? Like that because of his talent, he would be desirable, but I don't think you could get a first-round pick for him. And at that point, he was a first-round pick that you're now moving on from for less than a first-round pick. And they could make it, like, people want to say, well, you got a first-round pick for Hollywood Brown. No, you flip-flopped a third-round pick for a first-round pick. Like, you didn't, or a second, whatever. What was it that they traded back? Was it a second or a third? I don't remember.
For
now.
the DeAndre.
In the Hollywood Brown deal.
Oh, no.
I got to
with the
double check
Cardinals.
that. Yeah. But they didn't actually just get a first-round pick
I understand.
for Hollywood Brown.
It was a mix and match.
Correct. They moved up a little bit in the draft by trading Hollywood Brown. That was how that worked.
Right.
I'm not.
That got him Linderbaum, didn't it?
Yes, that was
that was Hamilton.
Hamilton was
Hamilton.
the pick. Was that pick? I'm not really interested in moving on from Rashad. I think that there is the talent
No, I think he's an
level,
amazing talent.
If he can be healthy, the talent level is so legitimate that
it was Linderbaum because
what was the trade? What was the
23.
trade?
Okay.
That's what I want to know. I want to know what the trade was because it was a first round. It was Hollywood Brown and a second or third round pick in exchange for a first rounder, and so we rewrite history and say you got a first round pick,
third round pick,
and Hollywood Brown,
yes,
for their first rounder.
for their first.
So it's important that we talk about it that way.
Yeah.
I don't want to move on from Rashad Bateman in any way. I think if you're doing it because you're saying let's load up. We don't know exactly what Zay Flowers will be as a rookie. We don't know exactly what Odell Beckham will be coming off a season-long injury.
That's right, and Beckham's only a 1-year deal. Now Hopkins would be a multi-year deal.
You would assume. Would assume.
I still think he's going to end up with either Buffalo or
and I
Kansas
do too.
City.
I do too. I guess my own. I don't think it would be a. I don't think it's
Would Philly have any room for him?
I think they would find room for him.
Yeah.
In the same way that you would look at the Ravens and say, well, you don't need him. Philly doesn't need him, but why not?
Yeah.
Like, why not load up? Now, I do think they're in a similar spot as the other two teams where they just don't have a ton of cap space. Although after they did the Hurts deal, I don't know what their cap situation
Now, did I
looks
read
like.
something to the effect that he's flirting with going back to the Texans? Did I read that?
I think I read that the Texan. No. Deshaun Watson was what I read. That there was some talk about the Browns being interested in repairing him with Deshaun Watson.
Right.
Okay.
He did also post something on his Instagram story where he was driving around in Houston. Hopkins did.
That one makes zero sense to me, but sure. I guess if he just loves Houston, then sure, you can always go back. I just don't know what the point of that would be. To go pair with a rookie quarterback when you're 31 years old and you don't know how many more opportunities you're going to have to try to win a Super Bowl. If I was DeAndre Hopkins, I'd be hell-bent on being on one of these teams that you genuinely believe could win a Super Bowl now to give yourself your best chance.
The Jets.
I don't understand the Jets comment that we're very happy with what we've got in
They do have good receivers. I mean,
they have good receivers. I think that's more that might be the parallel to what the Ravens are going through right now, where you say, we've got young receivers. We invested picks in these guys. We want to let that play out, and we don't want to stunt the growth of any of these players in the process would be the Jets thing. The other story, and I don't even know why it's a story, the other thing that was percolating yesterday was an almost insane reaction to a tweet that J.K. Dobbins sent out.
Okay.
I'm so befuddled by what, so J.K. Dobbins, I don't know why Twitter's not working right now.
Also, it's being kind of weird, I think.
J.K. Dobbins tweets out yesterday, Baltimore, Ravens flock, I hope I'm here to the end of my career. I love you, with a little purple heart. Which sounds...
Who's
J.K. Dobbins tweets that. And that sounds...
Who is right, yeah.
That sounds quite nice, right? Like, great. What's the problem there? Now, there was a follow-up tweet about business being business that I can't pull up because Twitter is being
He said,
wonky.
What did he say? He said, I don't know, though, right? Isn't that that was
Wasn't he kind of edgy at the end of the season that he should have
Well, he was
been
very
used more?
frustrated about the playoff game.
Yeah.
He was extraordinarily frustrated, almost directly about the fact they had Tyler Huntley trying to lay out for 2 yards and didn't have him in a goal line situation.
Right.
And he,
was furious.
He did not hold back. Post-game after the playoff game about his frustration about him not being used in goal line situations. And he's actually that's percolated a couple of times in the offseason on Twitter where he's sort of had fun with it. Like somebody would tweet, he would see a tweet about his statistics and then he would retweet it and say, and imagine if, never mind. He would say things like that on Twitter. That, to me, whatever, you know what I mean? Like none of that's ever going to bother me. Every guy wants the ball. Every single player wants the ball in these situations. Every wide receiver.
You sure want players that want the ball.
100%. I'm never going to be bothered by players that say I want the ball more. Now, they don't all deserve to get the ball more, But if you guys loved Steve Smith, and every single one of you seem to love Steve Smith, there's no way you can love Steve Smith and be bothered by J.K. Dobbins because it's the exact same concept.
Right.
They're just guys that want the ball, and you could say, well, Steve Smith had a track record, whatever. They want the ball. That's who football players are, every single one of them. So I'm not bothered by it. I think what people are reading into it is the idea that maybe he's hinting about a holdout, or he's hinting about, I want a contract. This is the final year of his deal. But he didn't say any of that, and that's what makes this why the reaction is so confusing to me. It seemed like, just a sentiment that maybe he saw people talking about the fact that he wasn't at voluntary OTAs, and he just wanted to say, look, man, no hard feeling. I love you guys. Like, I want to be a Raven. I don't know. I don't know why we're reacting. This gained so much steam yesterday, and it came off to me as this is what happens when there's no football games going on right now, that we overreact to anything. Nothing about this is concerning to me. I don't think it would be smart for J.K. Dobbins to hold out when
I wouldn't read too much into it.
You would never get me to care about a guy not being at voluntary OTAs. I do think that it's a good thing that Lamar Jackson showed up, because I think in part of doing the contract, they say, look, man, we're asking for you to give us a little extra buy-in this year because there's a new coordinator,
new offensive coordinator,
new receivers.
New receivers.
Is it weird that none of the corners have shown up?
None of it is weird to me. It's voluntary OTAs.
Kelly, Pepe Williams, Rocky Yassin, they're not there. Marlon's not there. I mean,
Caillou Blue Kelly, I would imagine Stanford is a different place. You probably have to finish your second semester at Stanford in order to you can't. It's not like other schools where they'll just cheat and say hey, we'll let you have your degree even though you didn't finish it. This was a problem years ago. It's funny because we don't think of Oregon as an institute of higher learning, but Haloti Ngata couldn't come to these things because he had to finish his other semester at Oregon. Stanford uniquely would seem like the type of place where they would say, dude, we're not working around you. That's not how this place operates. You have to be here in order to finish your degree. And Caillou Blue Kelly says to the Ravens, hey, look, I love you, but I went to Stanford. I'd really like to finish my degree. I don't know what the future is going to hold for me. And the Ravens probably say, we get it. We understand that. We hope you'll be here for the parts that matter. But go ahead and finish everything at Stanford until you get to that point. I'll never be worked up about any of these guys not being here for voluntary OTAs because they're voluntary OTAs. I just – would it be nice? Yes. I'd love it if they were all there because I don't think it could possibly hurt. But I'll never be worked up by it. Whoever shows up – if somebody doesn't show up for mandatory OTAs, then there's a problem, right? Then we know at that point there's an actual problem.
A guy like Rakacine, he's on a one-year deal,
he's a one-year
right?
Deal, yes.
And if he would get hurt in a voluntary, he could jeopardize his full contract, right?
I would have to. He wouldn't be. They wouldn't have to put him on the roster for week one. Yeah. I mean, there would certainly be ways they could wiggle around that at that point. None of that's going to bother me. And if J.K. Dobbins doesn't show up for mandatory OTAs, I would say that's a mistake on J.K. Dobbins' part. But we'll deal with that when we deal with that. Yeah. We're reacting to something that hasn't happened. I just don't know why we're so worried about this tweet from J.K. Dobbins that all it really says is, love you guys. Cool. Love you too, bro. What am I supposed to be offended about by this tweet?
I'd like to tweet him back from my phone.
Yeah, but you can't get onto your Twitter account. He said, I hope I'm here till the end of my career. I love you. And Ravens fans said, scandal! Whoa! Crazy times. What do you want me to say? I do think this is a critical year for J.K. Dobbins to prove what his value is, because I don't think it's a certainty that the Ravens right now, if you told me, gun to your head, are the Ravens going to pay J.K. Dobbins?
No. I mean, why should they?
I mean, there's definitely skill there. There's no question that there's skill. There's obvious skill. But do I know that he's special?
I'm not going to give him more than that. What was it, a 3-year, $15 million for Gus Edwards that we did
a year or two
ago?
Yeah.
I mean,
I certainly don't know that he's a special football player
I think his chance to have been special was robbed from him with that injury.
I think there's but again, he could prove this season that he's that guy again. And
just wonder if he'll have that speed that he had.
The second gear that he clearly was missing a year ago. It was obvious that it wasn't there. That's the difference. If he's got that back this season, then I think it goes a long way to showing the opportunity for J.K. Dobbins to be special. If he doesn't, then I think the Ravens will be right back in the running back mix. And when you're going to be spending the amount of money on your quarterback they're going to be spending, they just might look at running back and say that's going to have to be an area where we spend less money and where we're going to have to just keep drafting running backs and see what we can make work, because we can't afford to also pay money at that position given the money we're already paying our quarterback. We'll see how that plays out. All right, winding down for hour number 1 of
How are we
the
ever
show.
going to get
I don't
by
know.
the first hour of the show to Jon Miller?
That's unbelievable. We have so much more. What'd you prepare for today? What did you have topics
me,
you want to get into?
I prepare a lot.
You give topics. Hey, if you have not signed up yet, we are into the final 12 days for you to sign up to win 4 tickets to all of the area minor league baseball teams, plus a $25 Easy Pass Maryland on-the-go transponder and a $50 gas card from Royal Farms in order to help you get around. But in order to sign up, you got to go to PressBoxOnline.com/contest. That's PressBoxOnline.com/contest. Get signed up right now. Must be 18 or older in order to enter, and it ends on June 14th, so you're running out of time to get signed up. When we come back in, the legend, the iconic, a beloved figure in this city, and a very beloved figure as well in San Francisco.
Car dealer, right? Jon Miller.
Jon Miller. The guy that was helping us out with the Tyus Bowser show last year. That Jon Miller. Jon Miller, the great Jon Miller, is going to join us next, and we'll get ready for Orioles Giants. Stan the Fan Charles is here. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? A.J. Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the pipeline of talent still to come for the Orioles, diving in on last year's #1 pick, Jackson Holiday, and other top prospects like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, and more. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles Orioles pitcher Kyle Gibson, and Bo Smolka breaks down what progress would mean for the team's 2022 draft picks in their second pro season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The All-America Senior Game powered by New Balance will be back at Johns Hopkins Homewood Field on July 29th. The most decorated girls and boys lacrosse players in the country have been invited to play in what is the premier lacrosse event of the year. Every college coach wants their players in this game, and if you dream of being in this game, you start by trying out for one of your regional underclass teams this summer. The best against the best. Get your tickets now at allamericalacrosse.com.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get. So get your crab eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge, 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Check out PressBoxOnline.com every day to find daily winners and betting advice from Jeremy Kahn. And if you want some advice about life decisions that you probably shouldn't make, here's Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR. Again, don't forget, PressBoxOnline.com/offers is the place to get all of the best offers and sign-up bonuses, incentives for sports betting. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers right now. Get $150 in bonus bets from DraftKings. After you place your first $5 bet, you can see this and other great sportsbook offers right now at PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Hey, before we get to Jon Miller, did you watch Succession at all? Did you watch?
No, never.
No?
Never watched a single episode.
Did you ever watch
of it.
Ted Lasso? Did you ever?
I've watched Ted Lasso. I haven't watched this season yet.
You haven't watched this season. Okay. All right. I
love Ted Lasso.
What else have you been watching recently?
I've really not been watching much. I watched Citadel.
Oh, right. You were telling us about Citadel.
Which was only 6 episodes, $50 million an episode, $300 million. So
wild.
And then watched what they have in store with that. That thing is going to be Spin-Off City.
Right.
And I'm not that interested in the original.
Okay,
You know?
So you're kind of checked out on.
Yeah, I'm not going to dive in.
They're not going to recoup their $300 million on you.
Not off
is what
my
you're
back.
saying.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Joining us now here on GCR as we get ready for Orioles Giants this weekend out in San Fran. This man, an absolute legend, a broadcasting icon, a beloved
That's
figure.
me clapping.
I would clap for this man all the time. Beloved figure here in Baltimore from his time with the Orioles. Of course, now a beloved figure in San Francisco. He is the great Jon Miller, and he is back with us now here on GCR. John, it's Glenn and Stan the Fan. Charles is here with me. It's always great to catch up with you, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time for us.
My pleasure, and always enjoy talking about some ball, and maybe you could give me a little information about this Orioles team that's doing so well and about which I know so little.
I know you guys don't get to do a whole lot of games. John, I want to talk Orioles Giants with you. If I could before that, there's two things that Stan and I wanted to cover. One, this is the 40th anniversary of the 1983 World Series. And I just wonder if you could take us back. You were freshly in Baltimore, and you got to experience this magical season, kind of what it meant to you. Maybe if there were certain moments during the course of that year that stood out to you and you've carried with you over the course of these last 4 decades.
The 1983 season, it was so special in so many different ways, but at the same time, it wasn't that unexpected because the Orioles had been good year after year for a long, long time. And they had even sort of rebuilt themselves in the 70s when guys like Eddie Murray came along, and Jim Palmer was surrounded by even more outstanding pitchers like Mike Flanagan and Scott McGregor, among others. And so when they were so good, and Cal Ripken had emerged in 1982 as the Rookie of the Year, it looked like a really good ball club. And, you know, they'd had a year, what was it, a couple of years before that, where they won 100 games and didn't finish in first place. And they didn't have a wild card slot for the postseason at that time. So it wasn't that unexpected. And I remember that my first experience coming into Baltimore from spring training, the day before opening day at Memorial Stadium, they had a big rally down at the Inner Harbor, that little amphitheater in that corner of the Inner Harbor. And the people were just nuts down there. They were so thrilled and cheering each Oriole player as he came off the bus and came out on the little amphitheater stage. And I would just remember being in Boston before that. I had done the Red Sox games. And in Boston, the people had sort of a negative outlook about the Red Sox, even though they were usually very good. But they always had this fear of doom and gloom in Boston. We'll never beat the Yankees, and those Sox are going to break eye hot and all this kind of stuff. And I remembered that, you know, in 1982, the Orioles had this great run, this rousing stretch run. They came from 10 games behind, and by the last day of the season, they had tied the Milwaukee Brewers, which the Brewers had a great lineup, Harvey's wall bangers, and a great team, and yet the Orioles made this brilliant run. And then they lost that last game. Now, in Boston, that would have been, oh, I knew it. They never can win the big game, and so on and so forth. And in Baltimore, it was just the opposite. The people were just so high on this Orioles team and how much they loved them. And it was so much on display and so apparent that day. So that was my first real exposure to this interaction between Orioles fans and the team that they loved so much. And it was just exciting to see. And the team, you know, they didn't just go straight from start to finish right through the season. They had a stretch. They had 2 different 7-game losing streaks. Remember that, Stan? That year?
I sure do.
There was a lot of doom and gloom that surrounded that. I remember going into the little tiny little press room that they had where you could get a little dinner before a game at Memorial Stadium, and you could always get a crab cake in there as well. And generally the dinner might be your crab cake and maybe a burger or a hot dog and maybe a small little salad. It wasn't a real variety, but it was a little hole-in-the-wall place. And I went in there, and Edward Bennett Williams, the owner of the team, the great Washington attorney, he walked in and he sat down with me. He asked me very politely. He said, "You mind if I sit with you?" I said, "Are you kidding?" Yeah. I said, "How much money do you want me to pay you to sit here with me?" So, and they had been through this second 7-game losing streak, and he said, I've never been more down about anything in my career than this losing streak. I just can't figure it out, and I don't know how we're going to get out of this and what we need to do to be good and so on and so forth. And it was so amazing to me to hear this great, successful Washington attorney who was known as the man to see in Washington, D.C., be so down about something like a baseball team and the lack of success that they were having. And and then the team inevitably turned it around. And I did remind him of the history of the Earl Weaver run teams and how they always seemed to be the very best at the very end. They'd go on those legendary runs. And that's exactly what happened. They had this game that is an unforgettable game in Orioles history, where they came from behind in the 9th inning against the Toronto Blue Jays, whose bullpen was a little suspect. And Joe Altobelli, who had replaced Earl Weaver as manager, had used all of his pinch hitters and everything that he could think of to get the team back into the game. And sure enough, they tied the game up. But in doing that, he had stripped his bench of all the players, and he had to have his left field platoon play the infield. He gave Lowenstein and Renicky their choice. Well, which one of you want to play second? Which one will play third? And so, and I think maybe, and I probably have it backwards, but Lowenstein played second and Renicky played third.
That's
whatever it
exactly
was.
Right. Yeah.
And also, they didn't have anybody to catch. And Len Cicada, an infielder, he said, "I can catch." He says, "You caught?" He says, "Yeah." So he put the equipment on, and he was so small in that equipment that they looked at him and they were like, "Oh my God, he looks like he's a little leaguer wearing big league equipment." And they told him, says, "When you warm up the pitcher, do not throw the ball down to second base. Just run out to the mound and hand him the ball." And Cicada laughed that off, said, "That's ridiculous. I got it strong on." And so he warmed him up and he threw down to second base, and it went to second base on 4 bounces. So the first Blue Jays hitter hit a home run, Cliff Johnson. Tim Stoddard was in the game. And so now the Blue Jays are right back ahead. The next guy gets on base, and they cannot wait to steal against Cicada. And Tippy Martinez had come in from the bullpen with that runner on first. And Tippy had a bad pickoff. He didn't care about it. He didn't want to make pickoff throws. Well, he made a pickoff throw and picked the guy off. What? Are you kidding me? Then the next guy hits an infield hit to Lowenstein, and he picks him off. And the next guy gets on base, who was a base stealer named Dave Collins, a guy who could steal 70 bases and often did. And these guys just could not wait to get going. And Tippy, and they all the guys who were there describe it as Tippy, somehow coming up for the first time in his career with a brilliant block move. And he picked him off too. And the place just went nuts. It's the only time I've ever seen it. 3 pickoffs at first base in the same inning. But now they were still down by a run, so Cal Ripken leads off in the bottom of the 10th, and it was his birthday.
And when his
So what
birthday,
was that? It must have been August 24th, And Cal hits a home run to tie the game, just like that. And the stadium goes berserk again. Then they get another little rally going. They finally have a couple of men on, and Len Cicada comes up. And he hits a 3-run homer to end the game, and the place is just delirious. And Jim Palmer, after the game, all the writers are down in the clubhouse, and it's kind of a raucous scene in that clubhouse, as you can imagine. And Palmer says, "I got a scouting report on Len Cicada as a catcher. Here it is. Too small for the equipment. Weak arm. Hits with power."
That's great.
And the Orioles went on from there, and they went, 28-5 or whatever. And under Altobelli, Earl was gone, and even under Altobelli, that group, and it was Earl's group. Hank Peters, the GM, put it all together, but it was Earl's group. And they had the great stretch run, and they ended up winning, 98, 99 games and playing the White Sox in the postseason. And even though they lost that first game to the White Sox, they came back and swept through them after that and won it all, beating the Phillies. And it was just a kind of a dream season. And it was really the last hurrah for that group of guys.
Yep. Hey, John, I got a quick question before we start talking about the upcoming series. Apropos to what was fueling the passion for Oriole baseball in 82, 83, which was the demise of the Baltimore Colts, and then ultimately their leaving. That's what turned Baltimore into a great baseball town. The Oakland A's are probably, it looks to be, their last season in Oakland. That was your first job, was broadcasting Oakland A's baseball games, first major league job. Your thoughts about what's happened there and what's transpired in Oakland?
Well, it's a very sad story. I remember in the early 80s when the Levi Strauss people bought the Athletics as a community-minded corporation and thinking that this would be good for Oakland and good for the Bay Area to make sure that the A's stay put. And they dressed up the stadium, and they changed a lot of things at the Coliseum. And at that time, the Coliseum, that was the ballpark.
That was a great ballpark. Yep, great ballpark.
It was, and they became a model for big league teams. You know, the Dodgers had always been the model for how to run your organization, how to do it, how to market, how to sell tickets, and keep your ballpark in great shape and welcoming. And then the Coliseum became that ballpark. And the Levi Strauss people, the Haas family, were the ones who were in charge of the whole thing. And so they became the model. And they would draw 2.8, 2.9 million at the Coliseum. When that was, it wasn't like there were a bunch of teams drawing 3 million fans, as began to happen after Camden Yards opened, where the Orioles were selling out every game. And I think that Coliseum was the good ballpark, and Candlestick Park was the wreck.
Yep.
And the Giants have been trying to get a new ballpark for years, and we're not succeeding. So it was sort of remarkable how the whole thing came around, and the new ownership of the Giants from the 90s had a plan to build their own ballpark and finance it themselves, with the city being in charge of the surrounding infrastructure improvements, roads and plumbing and electricity, all the things that a city does. And so they built the ballpark, and a lot of ownership in baseball was against that, saying, well, it's not really going to work. It's not going to be possible, number one. And number two, we don't want to have to do that when the time comes for us to get a new ballpark.
Right.
So why don't you reconsider, for God's sakes? But anyway, they did it, and it revolutionized baseball in San Francisco, and it much the same way as Camden Yards did in Baltimore, because that became a place everybody wanted to go.
Yeah.
And I think that was what was. You remember Dan Roderick's, the columnist and talk show host in Baltimore for many years. When Memorial Stadium was closing, he talked about the philosopher and the phrase "a great good place," and everybody. A community needed a great, good place to became a gathering place where people saw each other and they were united and enjoyed themselves. In a neighborhood, could be a bar, maybe a great, good place where people gathered and had fun with each other. And Memorial Stadium was that, but then Camden Yards became that on a much larger scale, where you couldn't even get a ticket to a game. And I'll never forget the mayor of San Francisco just had been elected, Jordan, and was invited to Baltimore by Kurt Schmoke to come see Camden Yards and see what the whole scene was like. And he had him at City Hall and showed him the books and the tax reports and all this, how much money this was bringing in to the coffers, because so many people came from out of town to Baltimore for these games. And then he said, we're going to walk to the game tonight because you have to see the effect on the city on a game night here in Baltimore. And, they went through the city. There were people everywhere. And all these restaurants had the people out on the sidewalks, and maybe music being piped out there, and so the city was alive. He said, "Wow, how often does this happen?" He says, "Well, every time there's a game, they sell out every game, and the city is alive like that every night." So Frank Jordan saw the whole scene, saw the ballpark itself, and what a jewel it was, and came back home and said, "We have to have one of those here in San Francisco." And ultimately, it took the Giants' new ownership that saved the ball club. Remember, they were sold and gone. They were going to St. Petersburg, Florida, and they came in, civic-minded people, and they bought the ball club to keep it there, and then they devised this plan to build their own ballpark, and they made it work. So, and that I saw it happen in Baltimore. I was so fortunate to be able to be there when Camden Yards first opened, and we saw the effect it had on the whole city, and everybody wanted to go see it, and people were proud of it in Baltimore. You know, the New York Times architecture critic said this is the greatest new building in the history of baseball architecture, at least in the last 60 years or whatever, and it will inform all future new building in baseball architecture from now on. And he was absolutely right. Well, people were excited about that. And then the week that the stadium opened, the Today Show came down, and they did their morning show from Camden Yards. And we're showing all the features of Camden Yards, and the warehouse in Wright, and the stadium club up in the warehouse, and all the different things that made it so cool at Camden Yards, and Boog's Barbecue on Utah Street, and the whole bit. And people were so excited. And, they went from trying to order tickets for when the Yankees came to town and when the Red Sox came to town to just, well, what's the first date I can get a ticket to see anybody? And the tickets were just going so hot and heavy that it became a hot ticket, and everybody wanted to go there. So, and I think that's what the Giants were able to do here, and the A's, all of a sudden when Oracle Park opened, it was called Pac Bell Park at that time, and then people thought, well, the Coliseum that's passé, and that's nothing exciting at all. And so that perhaps is where it all changed. I'm not sure, but I think the A's ownership got into that cycle of we're poor, we're a have-not kind of a team. We can't afford to keep our stars. And for a long period of time, from over many, many years, these great young players that they had developed in their farm system were allowed to just go, and either traded away before they became free agents or allowed to become free agents. And for an A's fan, it was like, well, I get invested in this team and all these young players, and then they just walk away. And it's hard for me to keep doing that. It's like hitting my own head against a wall. So for me, and that's just my opinion, but for me, that was a huge part of what has happened over there, and sort of, the ownership, and they've had different ownerships in that time, sort of had a path on which they set, and that created that.
He is the great Jon Miller. He is with us here on GCR as we get ready for Orioles Giants this weekend out in San Francisco. John, as we shift towards this weekend, this series, it's very rare that a first baseman is at the top of a lineup, but it's a unique connection for us, as Lamont Wade is a Baltimore kid, went to the University of Maryland, and is one of the nicest guys I've ever come across in this game. Just a really sweet kid. Was a dynamic story, the late-night Lamont stuff the last couple of years, but how has he settled in to be such a quality, everyday player for this Giants team?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was excited when he got here because he was from Baltimore. Yeah. And I wanted to meet him and find out what part of the city and who his favorite Orioles were and all of that. And and really a cool guy. I met his mom and dad his first year, a couple of years back. And he was a platoon guy. Mm-hmm. The book on him was, he really can't hit left-handed pitching, which I always remember asking, well, how do we know? He's only faced like two left-handers in his career up till now. I mean, somewhere it seems like maybe they should find out if he actually could hit him or not. But that was the way he was put in there. And, he was in the minor leagues, and then they brought him up, and he had success right away when they brought him to the big leagues. And then they had a numbers thing. He was up for a couple of weeks, and they sent him back when somebody came back from the injured list and whatnot. And then he was doing so well down there, they just couldn't send him back again. They brought it back, and the fans they were apoplectic. They were like, wait a minute, he's been great. He's just what we need. You sent him back? Are you nuts? And so they weren't sending him back again when they brought it. But it was cool because we had the same guy, Brian Woods, that is our financial manager. Brian is a Baltimore County guy, and he's part of a company that with Joe Geyer that has this company that does that, and they're really good at it. So, Lamont's a Baltimore guy, so they represent him as well. So, and they told me a cool story. Brian told me a cool story that they called him and said, you've got that apartment up in Sacramento where the AAA team is, but you're not going to be sent back there, and we think maybe you should let that apartment go. It's a wasted expense for you. And Lamont told him, says, no, I don't want to take anything for granted. They could I could go cold and they might send me back. Some kind of a need might arise, and I think it'd be bad for me to take something like that for granted. I need that to continue to spur me on to work hard and play hard and whatnot. So he refused to do it, and so I met his mom and dad that year. They had come out. They had a special Lamont Wade shirt, replica jersey night at the ballpark, a giveaway. And the place where we park after the pandemic is across the street from the ballpark by this hotel. And I saw his mom and dad come out of the hotel. It was a really cool scene one day at a ball game. His mom, who's Emily Wade, is an athlete. Her husband, Lamont Sr., they call Lamont Wade Jr., by the way, Monty, because Lamont is his dad. He's Monty. But anyway, they came out of the hotel. But she was walking around the ball. She wanted to take it in with all the views and the bay views and the bridge views and all that kind of stuff and really take it in. And she was out in right field when he came up, so she stopped touring around to watch his at-bat, and he hit a home run into the bay that went right over her head.
Oh, that's cool.
It was kind of cool. So they had a camera out there, and they captured her watching it go right over her head into the bay and getting excited and jumping up and down and waving her hands and just kind of celebrating out there. So I knew what she looked like as I'd seen that on TV. So they come walking out of this hotel when I'm heading over to the ballpark. So I introduced myself to them, and I invited them up to the booth and to meet all the broadcasters and whatnot, and because they were Baltimore people. And I've since had lunch with them here in the city and shown them the city a little bit around town, and just wonderful people. And she's an athlete, by the way. She's a champion ping pong player.
Interesting.
And she's always looking for a table where she could have some high caliber games. She's a champion in that Mid-Atlantic region back in Maryland. So she's a competitor. So Lamont kind of gets that from his mom and dad, that athleticism. But I asked him, I said, so you probably couldn't beat your mom in ping pong. I said, no, I would beat her. She's really good, but I would beat her. So,
hey, John.
Anyway, nice people.
Hey, John, we've got a book in a few minutes, but I did want to ask you something that struck me. The San Francisco Giants, since the retirement of Buster Posey, have kind of struggled. And the Orioles, since bringing up Adley Rutschman, have kind of gone the other way. And I'm looking at that St. Louis Cardinal ball club with Yadier Molina retiring and the troubles they've had this year. Could you wax a little bit on the importance of how important a catcher can be to a team?
Well, and you're talking about two guys who both may end up in the Hall of Fame.
Probably will, yeah.
There are guys who can be crucial guys as catchers, and then there's guys who are that cut above. And for both of them, it went beyond. And Buster, I think, was overall a better hitter than Yadier. But and Yadier became a better hitter as time went on. He got better and better over the years, and he was a great clutch hitter, that's for sure. But for Buster, I think the real thing about Buster was he came up in 2010 in late May, and that's when Willie Mays came up in 1951 as a rookie. And both of their respective teams were kind of, not as good as hoped for. And then they got much better after those players arrived. And Willie, as time went on, he saw a lot of himself in Buster. That's what I was focused on.
Mm-hmm.
And after the Giants won that World Series, they asked permission from the Yankees and Mets for the New York Writers' Dinner, where a lot of awards are given out for the Rookie of the Year and MVP, and they also give out the World Series Award, the Babe Ruth Award. And Buster had won the Rookie of the Year, and he had won the Babe Ruth Award. And they said, we want to bring our World Series trophy back to New York and meet with some of the fans. And Willie Mays is going to go to the school in the neighborhood where he lived when he first came up to the Giants up in Harlem, near the Polo Grounds. And the Yankees and Mets very magnanimously said, oh, of course, that'll be great. We'd love to see it happen. Well, Willie met with all the kids at the school, and then they were going to go down. There's a group in New York called the New York Giants Preservation Society. Old Giants fans, baseball fans, who had, because the team was gone and left a void for them, they said, well, we're not going to become Yankee fans, for God's sakes. And they just kept meeting over the years, and then their families and children, offspring, whatnot. And that group exists to this day. So they took Willie and Buster Posey and the trophy down for a meeting with the New York Giants Preservation Society. And in the drive down there from Harlem, Willie said, when Buster speaks, I want to interview him. And then, of course, Willie Mays says that. They said, of course, absolutely, you're on. And because he saw so much of himself in Buster Posey. And in that way, I think he predicted a good part of Buster's future because he was a leader, and he was not an experienced catcher. And Rutschman is probably way beyond Buster now when Buster first came in, because Buster had just become a catcher, not just in his first year of college, but after he'd already been in college.
Did not remember that.
So he was still learning the position, but as it turned out, he was a pretty fast learner.
Right.
And
yes.
He was great. And all those World Series championships, the 3 times they won the World Series, he was in there every inning of every one of those games. Yeah. And that was the key. Every pitcher on those staffs said, Buster is the key. And because those, especially the relief pitchers, were the difference for those Giants teams versus all the teams they played in those postseasons. And they never lost a game out of that bullpen, in all those runs, and that they had been ahead. They came from behind on occasion, but never blew a lead. And those relievers, it was a lot like those Yankees teams in the late 90s, early 2000s under Joe Torre. Rivera, of course, was the great Rivera, but they never blew a lead. All those relievers were better in the postseason, and all of those Giants bullpenners, same thing, especially there were 4 who were there that whole time, always better in the postseason than they were in the regular season. And Buster was the guy that sort of shepherded those guys. So I think, I don't know how they make efforts to try and quantify in these baseball numbers now how valuable a catcher is in that regard. And it's hard to really do it in any kind of a meaningful way. But I think as good as he was as a hitter, that was the number one value for Buster Posey. And that's where they miss him. And it was the same thing for Yadier Molina. And I think what the Cardinals are battling with right now. And because Wilson Contreras was such a huge disappointment, as good a hitter as he is, and such a huge drop down from Yadier that that's been a real problem for the Cardinals. And the Giants they're hoping now they have a young catcher named Patrick Bailey. And whether he's going to be as good as Rutschman, who knows? Because it looks like Rutschman is going to be a great player for a long time to come. But Bailey's only been here for a couple of weeks, and he's made a huge difference. Every pitcher wants to pitch to him, and I think that they're getting something. They're getting a vision that maybe he's got some of those same qualities of Buster. We'll see as time goes on.
We're rooting for there to be a similar Adley Rutschman winning 3 World Series, but I think we'll settle for one. We'll settle for just getting one here in Baltimore because it has been 40 years. Jon Miller, it's always such a pleasure and a thrill to spend time with you, my friend.
Great to hear your voice,
I wish we could
John.
do this for 3 hours, but hopefully we'll be able to do it again real soon. Enjoy this series this weekend. Thank you for taking the time to spend with us this morning.
Well, I am looking forward to it, and I just talked with Joe Angel a longtime
love
voice of the
Joe.
Orioles, and so I was hoping to see him. He can't be here because he's got some graduations and parties to go to out of town in the family. But anyway, he definitely has his eyes on this series too, and it's so fun because the teams, their uniforms, there's a lot of similarities in the colors and whatnot. So I'll never forget my first spring training broadcast. A guy number 8 came to the plate for the Giants in his road uniform. The Giants were on the road, and I remember thinking, "Wow, Buster's, what happened? He looked like he's put on some weight." And then I realized, oh, this is the Giants. That's a catcher, Damon Berryhill, you know. Yeah. And but he was wearing number 8 and with the black and orange, and I couldn't get it out of my head that why does Cal? He must have put on 25 pounds for God's sake. But anyway, so anyway, it'll be fun for me, that's for sure, personally. And I'm looking forward to, because this Oriole team looks like it's got a lot of special things about it. So I'm sorry that Mullins is not going to play, but because I'm anxious to see him. But I am really excited to see Rutschman and the rest of these guys. Santander, I can't wait to just say that name. But and Mountcastle, sounds like you've got some European royalty in the lineup here with Mountcastle. Yes, Sir Ryan Mountcastle. And, anyway, sounds like fun. It's going to be a fun weekend, and I think I hope that the Orioles have a great year. Although I'm not hoping a great weekend for them personally, but I hope they have a great season.
John, please say hello to your wife. She was one of my favorite people.
Well, she just walked in the room, and she and my kids know you way better than me, because you had your tickets right behind them, behind home plate at Camden Yards for year after year after year. And,
yep.
So
until I couldn't afford them anymore.
I you at all compared to my wife.
All right.
So,
great to hear your voice, John. Talk to you soon.
All right. Likewise. All the best.
That's the legendary Jon Miller with us here on GCR. Appreciate him taking the time. And yes, when Jon Miller talks, you just get out of the way and let him tell his stories, and you're grateful for the opportunity to listen to Jon Miller tell his stories, and I greatly appreciate that. And as I kind of called the shot beforehand, I said, Stan was like, well, here's what I was thinking about. I said, Stan, I don't think you're going to have any problem. I think the only problem we're going to have is that we had another guest scheduled for 11:30 this morning. I think that's the only issue we're going to have.
We squeezed we got pretty close.
With Jon
Miller.
Threaded
that needle.
But, man,
he's great.
He's the best. There's no question about that. Really appreciate
Len,
it.
that was my first year on the air in 1983.
Was it really?
Yeah. It was my first year doing real thing. And if you had told me then in October of 1983, kid, enjoy this one because you're not going to win another one. I mean, the Orioles look like certainty.
No question.
That they would have won a World Series in the next 5 to 10 years after that. Never happened.
Hopefully, we're going to get one
Before
here in the
I
next.
Go.
Yes,
Before I go out the door.
Hopefully that's the case. Today's show brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. We go from talking about legends to a brand new sports team that has come to our area, and a man who's a part of that is definitely a legend. And Dave Johnson, I'm going to apologize that we're running a little bit late this morning. I think you'll understand when we tell you that we had Jon Miller join us at 11 this morning, and at 11:30 we were still struggling to get him off the phone. I imagine you can understand why we were willing to let Jon go a couple extra minutes with us.
Oh, I can definitely understand that, and I'm just so appreciative of the time, because I know both of you guys so well, and this is the Annapolis Blues. It's a great community story, and I appreciate as we spread the word, because people are still finding out about it. So we're going to be playing at a place that everybody knows, Navy Marine Corps Stadium. And if you're looking for something to do with a family that doesn't cost a lot, why not have a night out in Annapolis? That's not a bad thing.
Dave, let's get into it, right? Because to your point, I do still think there are a lot of people that aren't familiar with who the Annapolis Blues are and what they are and anything like that. So can you walk us through all of it? How did we get to this point where coming up this weekend, there's going to be professional soccer being played at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium.
Well, Michael Hitchcock has just got a great organization that quite frankly, picks out markets across the country to provide, affordable, fun entertainment at this level. And Annapolis was a market, and I've always said this, that it's at a perfect market, and it fits into the Annapolis, schedule. It's once a week. We have baseball. We can go to the Bay Sox, but why not have the soccer entertainment in Annapolis? So Kyle Beckerman, who went to my high school, Rundle High School, a U.S. national team player, Alex Shee, other local people got involved in the ownership group, and we went about organically building a club. And part of that formula was this is Annapolis' team. This is the town's team. We want supporters to feel like this is their team. So we offered $100 season tickets, and if you bought before Christmas, you got a jersey with that, just like the players are going to be wearing, and a scarf. And part of the reason we did that was we want people to feel it, feel the passion. It's just, you put that jersey on, suddenly you're part of the team. We want you part of the team. And so when we had our first preseason game, and we had about 4,000 at Navy Marine Corps Stadium, and people were looking at 2,000 jerseys and saying, wait a minute, I want to get one of those jerseys, and I want to be a part of the team. And that's what we're building. It's beyond my wildest dreams how that first season game went. Guys, and I think this is why we love sports. Yeah, we're into winning and losing and titles, but doggone it, it's 2 hours where the biggest concern you have is, did I get an autograph? Or maybe, I got a T-shirt thrown to me or whatever. That's what, to me, makes sports. It's unscripted, it's emotional, and this is what we're bringing to the Annapolis Blues. And the venue, and again, I love when things just are created organically. It's a great parking lot, as you know, Navy Marine Corps Stadium. And so already the first preseason game, we're having tailgating. So it's going to be a same thing coming up Saturday. People are going to be getting there at 3 o'clock early. The cookouts. You got pickup soccer games going with kids in the parking lot. It's fun. It's fun, and that's all it's meant to be about. That's what we're talking about. We're not saying you're going to have World Cup soccer come to Annapolis on Saturday. What you're going to have is World Cup fun.
Hey, Dave, it's great to hear your voice, and it's been a while. And I know soccer has been a passion of yours for a long, long time. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the ownership of this group that came together? And it's really ironic. I interviewed Terry Hazeltine last night, and the subject of your team came up. It was very interesting, and then I come in today, and we have you on.
Well, and again, as you and Stan, you and I have known each other, dare I say, 40 years, and I still remember when you came on at WFBR, and it was your show and your concept, and the passion that you brought to the baseball talk, and so when you have passions, it's important to put your money, where your mouth is, so to speak, to use an old phrase, but it's why, and I'm not just blowing smoke at you, but there's no other situation like Stan the Fan in this country with press box and the quality of coverage of all things. We live in a world now where sometimes it's only the NFL gets covered, and I understand the NFL is the biggest thing, but you know what? There's so many things going on that are worthwhile, that are great athletic endeavors, that are great fan entertainment, whether it's college sports too, et cetera. So you could go right down the list. But this is something that I always believed in. I believed in soccer in this country. You were great about getting in. I still remember with the Blast and WFBR and the coverage you provided, and this is why people listen to Stan the Fan, because he's the first to tell you what he knows and what he doesn't know. And so when he did those soccer shows, he got people that knew more. about soccer.
Yep.
Now probably Stan knows more about soccer than I do.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. I get most of my soccer knowledge, Dave, from Ted Lasso. I get most of my soccer knowledge.
Well, but and again, what this is, I'm not. It sounds like I'm throwing bouquets because I'm grateful to be on the talk, and I am grateful to be on the talk. But I think it's important that people know, this is community stuff. This is our team. And when I say Annapolis, I mean, these are Marylanders that, our first player that we signed and which is from Forest Hill, which is up in Harford County. And you can go on our website and check out, all the, whether they played for Baltimore Armor USA or Pipeline Soccer Club. My good friend Santino Quaranta and Glenn, the Quaranta family. And
very well.
Now, they're doing a good job with promoting soccer. So, hey, this is giving these young kids a platform, and the great thing about the game of soccer is that first preseason game, and as I sat there and I thought, I don't care what level, when you score a goal from 18 yards out that curls in the upper 90, it looks like the same goal David Beckham scores, if you know what I'm saying. In other words, a goal can still be a beautiful thing. It doesn't matter what at any level. Now, obviously in the game, our preseason game, it wasn't David Beckham and it wasn't Man United, and he wasn't scoring against one of the top teams in England. But the level of competition still today, with the way these kids are playing, and I say kids, young men, it's an entertaining brand. And this is why I am so excited, because things are happening, and Stan knows this better than anyone. And he knows the 80s and the struggles, and we didn't even have an outdoor professional league. My God, we have a World Cup coming to this country in 2026, and my God, Baltimore should have been one of the host cities, but it's still going to be within our region. And Baltimore has always been a great, not good, a great soccer city. This goes back to my friend Sonny Askew and the people that played in Highlandtown, in the parks, in Baltimore in the 70s. Sonny Askew was one of the great first Americans. He was playing next to Johan Cruyff in the NESL. And so, Baltimore is a great soccer town, and we want you to come down to Annapolis, and you're going to see Baltimore kids playing, Maryland kids playing. Again, to me, that's just a great thing. And we're going to be playing against the Maryland team on Saturday, Frederick. So, Maryland, sports, Annapolis, I think it's a pretty good combination.
Home opener is tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. You can find out more at AnnapolisBlues.com. As you can tell, Dave Johnson, very passionate about professional soccer coming to Annapolis. He's with us here on GCR. Dave, here's my important question, because I can't make it tomorrow night, but I'm going to bring my two sons out. Is there a different ticket package that I can buy to be able to sit next to you so that when a goal is scored, they can hear you say it's in the net? Is that possible that we can make that ticket package happen?
You know what? Yeah, that's a great idea. I got to get on that. We got to get on that, and I'll have we have to have that ticket package. Maybe we can do a whole live Glenn Clark radio and have Stand the Fan down, and the next thing you know, we just blow the whole thing out. So we got to wait down. But anybody listening, and this I do believe in what we're doing, but I'll throw my email out there. It's dave@AnnapolisBlues.com. You can reach out to me if you have questions, if you have anything. I respond to all emails, and this is what it's. We've had, we keep having these events. We're not just doing game days where we get together with. We want to, we're just fans too. But this is our club. This is, it's not a $1 billion corporation that owns the Annapolis Blues. It's a bunch of people that have gotten together and said, you know what, we're going to have family fun entertainment, and we're going to have a lot of fun tailgating. It's just going to be, look, we only have 5 home games. It's a small schedule, but over the next month, check it out at AnnapolisBlues.com. You can come to a game, and you'll have fun. And if you don't, send me an email at Dave@AnnapolisBlues, and I'll take you out to dinner and put it on Stand the Fans tab, and we'll sort everything out.
At Dave J Sports on Twitter is how you follow him. Dave Johnson, really excited to get down and see the Blues for sure.
Hey, Dave, I'm going to reach out to you this week to try and get you on one of my Zooms with Gary Stein.
No, please do. And again, there's no other place, and I travel with my NBA gig Baltimore and this whole area is so blessed to have what you do because the interviews are current, but then there's historical and whether it's I don't know why I'm thinking. You had Ross Grimsley on once. Right?
Ross is my co-host. Ross is my co-host on Mondays, but Gary and I do more a Newsmaker Zoom on Thursdays, and I'll reach out to you shortly.
Perfect. Look forward to that. Looking forward to reconnecting. And thanks for the time. And boy, I'm going to write this down. June 2nd, I actually followed Jon Miller. So I hope people are still listening.
There are plenty of people. I think that was a pretty good lead-in, too, by the way. Dave Johnson, really appreciate it, man. Thank you for spending some time with us this morning.
All right, all the best, guys.
It's Dave Johnson, of course, local broadcast, as he pointed out, Wizards and D.C. United over the years, WTOP down in D.C., very much a part of the fabric of that community. And I think he actually lives up here, which is the ironic part. Appreciate him taking the time for us. Stan, I know you got to head out in
I've got to duck out. I got a procedure I'm going to have done. They're installing some kind of...
I want you to know I support you in your transition. I just want you to know that. I don't know if you've decided what it is that you're going with yet, if it's going to be like Stephanie the Fan Charles moving forward. I just want you to know
very funny.
How
Touché.
Supportive I am.
Touché. All right. I'll see you next Friday
but,
if I survive.
Yeah, correct. Monday night, you guys are back.
Monday night, it's 4:00. Luke and I will be doing it because I'm. What's my reason? What's my reason?
Oh, the Orioles are off on Monday.
I've got something I've got to do.
Okay.
Monday evening, I got something I've got to do. Next Thursday, Pat Scary's going to be on.
Cool. Of course, Towson basketball coach next Thursday night. Always good to see you, my friend. Thanks for coming in and spending the time with us. Thank you for the donuts as well. Right. That was very thoughtful of you. Right. Appreciate it.
Talk to you soon.
This is the great Stan the Fan Charles, Chief Grand Poobah at Stan the Fan on Twitter is how you follow him.
Boy, Dave Johnson really remembers my career.
He's a big Stan the Fan. He's a Stan the Fan.
Who knew?
Correct. Love Dave Johnson. All right, we'll come back in. We will start putting the finishing touches on a Friday edition of the program. Tidbit, tubular, that's all on the way. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Are you a diehard O's fan looking for the perfect way to show your team spirit? Look no further than Birdland Sports. Birdland Sports is a small business run by fans for fans. They offer a wide variety of unofficial O's merchandise, from the Birds Are Coming tees to player cartoon shirts and more. And the best part, their prices are more affordable than the big guys. So head to birdlandsports.com and grab your gear today. Show your support for the Birds with Birdland Sports.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the pipeline of talent still to come for the Orioles, diving in on last year's #1 pick Jackson Holliday and other top prospects like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, and more. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles Orioles pitcher Kyle Gibson, and Bo Smolka breaks down what progress would mean for the team's 2022 draft picks in their second pro season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip, that first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? A.J. Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
If you miss anything on the show, don't forget that you can watch full episodes at youtube.com/pressboxonline, and you can download podcasts on Apple, iTunes, Amazon, and Grindr. Wait, did I say Grindr? I don't think that you would find it on Grindr. Not that I know it's on Grindr or anything, I swear. On second thought, you know what? I don't care what you think. Here's Glenn.
All right, thanks again to both Jon Miller and Dave Johnson. Pretty decent hour of programming here on GCR, and thanks to Stan for not getting in the way. Kidding. I love you. Love you. Appreciate you. Just wanted to get that in on him. Winding down for hour number 2 and not the week here on GCR. If you've not picked up this print issue of Press Box, you only have a few more days in order to go get it. You see that illustration of Jackson Holiday on the cover. It dives into, yes.
By the lovely and talented John Panisi.
Thank you, sir. That is available only for about 2 more weeks, so get over to your neighborhood Royal Farms, wherever it is that you find Pressbox throughout the city, the region, or you can read it at PressBoxOnline.com, but it's only available in print for another 2 weeks, so make sure you get out there this weekend and pick it up before it is gone. I was reminded that we didn't do fighting words yesterday, but you and I kind of talked earlier in the week. There's not a lot going on.
Really.
The news yesterday related to Gervonta Davis, I mean, it's...
No, I mean, we
just
can
can't,
talk about it.
just cannot get out of his way. Like, he just cannot get out of his own way.
So he violated already, like, again, I guess?
Yeah, so he had he was given a 3-month home detention.
Okay.
House arrest. And apparently violated it.
And it had, like, just started, right?
Well, I think he was, like, almost a month into it, 3 months, so now he's got to go to jail, and it's...
Jeez.
Look, man, you know, like, I don't feel bad for the guy. Like, it's just so insanely stupid. And I talk about this constantly with Gervonta. And when we talked to Calvin Ford a couple weeks ago, I said, look, can he just get... I worry that he thrives in chaos. And I think, especially in this city, we know people that's just chaos is their normal. And that, like, their ability to function almost has to be surrounded by chaos. And I worry that that's just who Gervonta Davis is. And for as talented as he is as a boxer, and that's, you know, unquestionable, you worry that eternally his greatest opponent will always be himself. And, you know, this alone is not the end of the world. This is not, you know, another significant charge of something awful or anything along those lines, but it's just so dumb and unnecessary that you can only shake your head. You know, again, if it's 3 months, he gets through it, and then he's able to get back to training and boxing, and, you know, he can work out while he's in jail. Just so incredibly dumb.
Yeah, disappointing, and yeah, just not, I guess.
Yep.
Kind of a damper for what was already a slow week for fighting words.
And you didn't watch The Ultimate Fighter.
I didn't watch The Ultimate Fighter yet.
Do we even know when the fight is going to be
for Chandler and
McGregor?
Conor? No, that is not. That has not been kind of.
Do we know that he's
yet.
back in USADA? Do we know that he is started?
No, I don't think we do actually.
Because he's got to be in for 6 months, right? Like you've got to. He's got to test clean for 6 months in order to be able to fight. And if we don't know that he's in, then
I mean, okay. So apparently he was vowing that it's going to be the greatest return in combat sports.
Okay, that's not a thing.
On the other night,
I need to know the facts of this.
Yes, yeah, I know the facts.
Like the facts are, they started this show and they like to try to end the show with a big event that would include the final fight for the Ultimate Fighter and this fight.
Looks like they're trying to pencil in sometime in December. For the UFC
so that would sound like
he is either just getting into USADA or still hasn't. So
and he would need to get in soon.
Yeah, he would need to get in.
We're talking about June 2nd. Right, correct, for that to be the case. Just absurd. Yes. And then what is the fight this weekend?
The fight this weekend. It's Kai Kara France and Amir Albazi. So it is a flyweight. Yes, flyweight 125. Kai Kara France already lost to Brandon Moreno, who's the current flyweight champ. But I think he should win again. I mean, Albazi's is he undefeated or he has one loss? So like there's a little bit of a draw there. The flyweights are typically pretty exciting just because these guys, you know, are kind of more talented than these heavyweights that you see. Just because unless it's the top heavyweights, these guys are a lot more fun to watch just because they can grapple, they can wrestle, they know how to strike. But otherwise, I mean, Jim Miller's fighting this weekend. And otherwise,
I didn't know Jim Miller still fought. Honestly,
because
how old is Jim Miller now?
He is. I want to say 38, but that almost seems too young.
Yeah, right.
Because he wants to fight on UFC 100, UFC 200. So he's already done both of those, and he wants to fight on 300, which would probably be next time, next
Miller
July.
39. Jim Miller
April.
Was born 7 days before I was.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, August 30th, 1983.
That can be the headline when you guys start do your
right,
celebrity
right
boxing
exactly. Yeah, I don't think that one's gonna happen, But yeah, Jim Miller will be 40 in August. And when would 300 be?
That would probably be sometime between next April and June, I would think. So he's got about another year.
I was always into Jim Miller. He also, for whatever reason, was like a regular. Like so
Really?
when we used to do, I had a friend. I actually had two different friends who ran UFC PR over the years. One who went from working for the Steelers, so we always knew him from the Steelers, to working with UFC. And then one who now works for the Philadelphia 76ers, who ran UFC PR. And so for years, because I was very friendly with these guys, and also we had this relationship with John Jones, they would be coming in studio with them. They'd be and they would just before every fight call and be like, "Hey, can you put somebody on this week?" And legitimate, like Raya Faber and like real fighters constantly. But I also remember Jim Miller being somebody they regularly were like, "Dude, would you put Jim Miller on again?" And we were like, "Nah, sure, why not?" Like, and I want to say there was a day where we had both Jim Miller and quarterback Jim Miller on the same show, if I remember correctly. That was a thing that occurred.
That's a good show.
Yeah, it's random as hell.
Abubakar Nurmagomedov. So this is Habib's first cousin, also fighting.
Okay.
And Andrei Arlovsky will also be fighting. He's still fighting too.
He's
didn't
realize
44.
I had no idea
he
that
is
Andrei
44.
Arlovsky.
That
Wasn't
fight's
there a cool rap song that involved Andrei Arlovsky?
Was there?
Andrei Arlovsky, because didn't he come out to it? I remember
maybe
the hook was just like Andrei Arlovsky, something like that. Man, there are a couple of boxing cards this weekend on DAZN. You get Clarissa Shields and Marciela Cornejo. I don't know anything about her, but it's watch Clarissa Shields.
Yes.
Essentially, is what that I assume is. And then the Adrian Broner fight is on pay-per-view, but I didn't realize how low rent Don King was now. Like, make whatever joke you want to make about that, but I didn't realize Adrian Broner is fighting on like pay-per-view, but I was trying to figure out, is it like Showtime pay-per-view? Is it HBO pay-per-view? It's just labeled as pay-per-view. Adrian Broner versus something called Bill Hutchinson.
Yes. That it says Fight.tv pay-per-view in the UK.
Okay, all right. Fight TV is a real thing.
Yeah.
That's true. And if you go to Don King's website, donking.com, it has the fight being listed as next Friday.
Yes. Yeah, so then it would so it's not this week.
Well, but everybody else has it listed as
it said like tonight?
this week. Yeah.
Or tomorrow. Okay.
I don't know what happened.
The one
here.
I'm looking at box.live as well, and it says
they've got it as next Friday. All right,
Yes.
maybe it got moved to next Friday, and there are a few people.
So hopefully
that just
everyone's
didn't
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Everyone's healthy.
I don't know. All right, so we don't have to worry about that. But Adrian Broner is then fighting next week, I guess.
Yeah. So next fighting words could be a big one. Adrian Broner. We got UFC 289.
Isn't there? Doesn't
Nunez.
Teofimo Lopez fight next week too?
Yes, he does. Correct. So maybe a few more things, hopefully, to talk about next
week.
week.
Get the Open taken care of.
Yes,
get that figured out.
Gotta get a voice out there.
All right. We good? Can we just wrap up at a normal time today? That'd be great. Tidbit is brought to you today by AJ Michaels, expert and award-winning. AJ Michaels, heating, AC, plumbing, and home performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. AC season is here. New rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com.
So, obviously, the Heat did not play very well. 2 free throws in the entire game. It is the fewest in an NBA playoff game in the history of the NBA. 2 free throws in the entire game. So
not ideal.
No,
I mean, to say the least, not ideal.
They also shot, this is according to Second Spectrum.
I do think that stands like question about whether or not, they're adjusting to the elevator. It's been pointed out by many people that the Nuggets have not lost at home during these playoffs. Charles Barkley was very dismissive of the advantage that they have at home. I think the quote was like, "I don't see any banners up there." But I do think that we can all acknowledge that there's probably something real to it. And if you can buy into the idea that you give them, because they're doing the weird bit where there's 3 days between games because they want to play on Sunday night it's weird that they're obsessed with Sunday night this week, and then if the series were to go on, they wouldn't be playing on Sunday night next weekend.
Oh.
It's odd that they're so desirous of Sunday night.
Sunday night does seem like a good
it's always
night.
a good TV night, and so I get it, but they're forcing a third day off, 3 days between the games, and then they're turning around to do like Wednesday, Friday, Monday if the series continues. Let me double check on this. It's such a bizarre.
Yeah, that is bizarre.
Dude, it's so bizarre. Okay, so yes, it would be Wednesday, Friday, Monday.
If they need Monday.
No, dog. Yeah, I mean, I hear you. Anyway.
So Second Spectrum has a status called wide open threes, so that when the closest defender is 6 feet away, the Heat had 16 of these shots. They went 5 for 16 on wide open threes, 31%. They shot nearly 50% in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Celtics on wide open threes.
Okay.
So that'll have to change.
Yeah, definitely.
Haywood Highsmith can't be the only guy. Come on, Heat.
But yes, the question is whether or not they adjust with a couple more days in the altitude, practicing in the altitude, and if that had an impact, if it was just the emotions of a Game 7, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think flatly the Nuggets are a much better team.
Yeah. Jokic did become, despite what Glenn tells you, he had a great game last night. Jokic is
No.
second player.
He had a totally the standard for Nikola Jokic is so out of control.
Had a triple-double.
I understand that. You're missing the point that I'm making. You're purposely trying to make it seem like I'm disparaging Nikola Jokic, which I'm not doing. I'm saying the standard for him is so absurdly high.
Led the team in scoring.
All right, we're not going to be able to have a conversation.
Okay.
You're just obsessed with the idea that I am disparaging Nikola Jokic. What I'm really doing is the exact opposite, which is that he's so effing good that when he has a 27-point game, you're sort of like,
You were let down by him?
Not let down, just it's by his standards, not even as that's the concerning part to me for Miami is that's probably about as much as you're going to be able to keep Nikola Jokic in check. You're probably not going to be able to limit him to anything more than that, and you were never really in the game. That's concerning.
He became the second player to ever have a triple-double in his NBA Finals debut. He joined this New Jersey Nets.
Jason Kidd
in 2002 against the Lakers in his Finals debut. Triple-double.
They did not win a game in that series.
Also became the second player in his Finals debut to lead the team in points and assists in his Finals debut. He joins
Magic Johnson.
Not Magic.
Steph Curry.
1991. Finals debut for
Michael Jordan. I'm
Michael
surprised
Jordan.
that he led the team in assists.
I guess that is surprising. So Jokic joins those two as the only player to ever do that. Dusty Baker moved into 8th last night in managerial wins all time.
Okay.
With 2,000. Sorry, I clicked out of it. 2,126 after the Astros win over the Angels. Do you know who has the most wins by manager all time?
That's a great question.
It is a great question.
That I've never really thought about. I'll say God.
It's a little tough, yeah.
How about La Russa?
Tony La Russa is second all time in managerial wins.
Joe Torre?
Joe Torre is 5th all time in managerial wins.
Sparky Anderson?
Sparky Anderson 6th.
Casey Stengel?
Casey Stengel not in the top 8. He is 13th. 1,900 wins.
Okay, so is it just it's very old? Is that Connie Mack?
Connie Mack, number 1, 3,731.
I just don't have the context for how long Connie Mack managed. I know he was a great manager, but I don't have any of that context.
Do you want to do? Let's see. I won't do the Garrett Cole one. Let's do active managerial wins then.
Active managerial wins.
I have the top 10 in front of me. See if you can name the top 10 then.
Top 10 active
managers.
All right.
So Dusty is 1.
Right, that makes sense.
So I need 9 more.
Terry Francona?
Terry Francona is 3rd, 1897.
Bruce Bochy.
Bruce Bochy is 2nd, 2,036.
Kind of forgot that he came out of retirement.
Yeah, so he's only like 92 behind Baker. So
now this is where it gets interesting because I don't know that. It's not a lot of guys with a ton of experience. Bob Melvin.
Bob Melvin is 5th.
Okay.
So you jumped over the guy that was 4th. You should know the guy that's 4th, though.
Oh, Buck, yeah.
Buck
of course,
Showalter.
Buck, right.
1679, 1459 for Bob Melvin in San Diego.
God. I feel like at this point now it's where you could start going to guys that just aren't particularly legendary. They just Dave Roberts.
Dave Roberts is on this list, 8th. With the Dodgers, 685 wins.
Yeah, not really a legendary, just kind of been around long enough. Aaron Boone.
Aaron Boone is not in the top 10 yet.
Okay. How
Let's get
about
a little tougher, yeah.
How about AJ Hinch?
AJ Hinch is on the list, 7th. Currently with the Tigers, 738 managerial wins for him.
How about Bud Black?
Bud Black, currently with the Rockies, had, 8 years with the Padres? 1,090 wins for Bud Black.
Alex Cora.
Alex Cora not in the top 10.
Snicker.
Not Snicker. Just a little.
I mean, yeah, I get
I
the
guess it's not
tenure
as
is that
managed,
right,
yeah.
but I'm guessing this is the difference in a year or two with some of these guys because there's not a whole lot of other managers that unless I'm forgetting somebody.
Yeah, 2 more, and they're on. Okay,
easy.
Yeah,
Don't. Dave Martinez.
Not Dave Martinez.
Craig Counsell.
Craig Counsell is 10th, 643 wins. Number 9, American League manager.
American League manager. All right. Now I got to go team by team, right? Hyde. I said Cora. Boone. Kevin Cash.
Kevin Cash.
Okay.
679.
Sorry, I had a
so
pen
he
in my
seems to
mouth.
be-
I'm sorry,
yeah.
Kevin Cash.
Kevin Cash, yes. There's the top 10. Well done.
All right, very good. I mean, it's easier because you're not having to go with all time. Like you're just working with active managers. Then it was gonna get really bad if you told me like, "Hey, who's the manager of the Cincinnati Reds right now?" And I'd be like, "I don't know that I know that." Who is the manager of the Cincinnati Reds right now? Actually,
Excellent question.
I genuinely don't know. I'm trying to think about other teams that
David Bell. David Bell.
Oh, David Bell. Yeah, David Bell is the manager of the Cincinnati Reds.
He's-
Is there another
he
team?
likes to get ejected
Hang on
a
a second.
lot.
I'm trying to think of like a name of the
Name all the
managers for all the
managers.
teams. All right, so we did this. Brandon Hyde, Alex Cora, Boone, Kevin Cash, and that weirdo Schneider who didn't know the rules were of baseball. The Chicago guy. I know it's the new guy.
He's got that name.
What's his name? Oh, Jesus. Just tell me. What's his name?
It's Pedro.
Griffin.
Griffin.
Yeah. Thank you. Francona, Hinch. Quattro or whatever is the guy in Kansas City, right? Quattaro or something like that.
Matt Quatraro.
Quatraro. Minnesota.
Oh yeah, Minnesota.
I should know this. It's not.
You should know it, but I mean it's kind of random.
All right, tell me.
Play that Rocco Baldelli.
Oh, damn it! I did know. Damn it! All right, this isn't going well.
Oakland A's. Former player, young.
No chance. Mark
Kotze.
Oh, it's Mark Kotze.
Yeah,
the
Mark
manager at
Kotze's
Oakland?
managing
I didn't know
the
that. The Angels are Nevin.
Yes.
Right, because he took over when they got rid of Madden.
Yes, yeah.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Stuck around with him.
Where's Tyler Nevin?
Detroit. I believe.
Yeah,
Detroit
that's right.
system.
Detroit. Yeah. So Houston, of course, is Baker. Seattle is Service, right? And Texas is Bochy. Atlanta, Snicker. Miami. Oh God, who's the manager
former
in
player,
Miami?
like kind of recent, like kind of like Kotze. Infielder. And like also kind of random.
I don't know. Who is it?
It is Skip Schumacher.
Son of a bitch. All right, Buck.
Rob
Thompson in Philly.
Yes.
Washington is Dave Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
The Cubs are David Ross. Cincinnati, David Bell. I didn't know that, but you just told me, so now I got it. Craig Counsell. Pittsburgh's manager is...
It's kind of like you should know it, but it's also kind of like, why would you?
I don't know.
Derek Shelton.
I don't know anything about Derek Shelton. I just realized I don't know who the manager is of the Cardinals either, if I'm being honest with you.
Cardinals is Oliver Marmol.
I have no idea who that
know
is.
who Oliver
I don't
Marmol
know
is.
at all.
That nationally gets a little tougher.
Arizona's Lavulo.
Yes.
Colorado's
That
Bud
is,
Black.
and a leading Diamondbacks.
That's right. It's crazy.
Terry
isn't it?
Lavulo.
LA's Dave Roberts. San Diego is Melvin, and San Francisco is Gabe Kapler, right?
Well done. Well done. So
And
basically like 26.
I didn't go 30 for 30.
26-ish.
That was rough.
Yeah.
That was rough. I couldn't be on ESPN. I can't go 30 for 30. It's real rough for me.
I mean, come on, Oliver Marmol and
Yeah, I mean, who are these people?
I don't know if anyone.
Tubular is brought to you by
St. Louis.
Tubular is brought to you by PressBoxOnline.com/contests. Again, head over there right now. You can get 4 tickets to each of the minor league baseball teams, plus an Easy Pass Maryland on-the-go transponder preloaded with $25 and a $50 gas card from Royal Farms in order to help you get around. You must be 18 or older in order to enter. The sweepstakes ends June 14th. PressBoxOnline.com/contests in order to sign up. Here's what's coming up that matters tubular-wise. Orioles Giants this weekend. Tonight, 10:15. I got to be up at 5 o'clock both the next 2 mornings. So,
Oh, you're doing a run tomorrow?
well, I'm not running. I'm the
okay.
voice. Also, by the way, great week to have my allergies kick in.
It's forever. I
I'm
mean,
the voice of the Baltimore 10-miler tomorrow morning, and then
so you're doing like play-by-play for the race, or
no, I'm
You're
doing.
just emceeing.
I'm like when people cross the finish line, I'm like,
congratulations.
all right, way to go, Dave Davison from Shrewsbury. Well done. Great run here in the Baltimore 10-miler. Thankfully, because Booker made me run a few of these things, I remember because I'm Booker now. Like, this was his job, and so I'm just basically doing a Booker impression when I show up to do these events. Just, you're at the Baltimore 10-miler. It's a great day. And then I got to thank whoever the sponsors are. And I don't know why I get this gig, but whatever. They're good people, and I appreciate them being a part of everything we do, so I'm happy to be out there and doing it.
Yeah, I'm trying.
But I got to be up at 5 in the morning in order to do it. And then Sunday's my day at the homeless shelter, so I'm going to be up at 5. I don't know how this weekend's going to go because I also have to host both Saturday and Sunday on 105.7, so like I'm nightmare. I got to watch the games. I think tonight I told my wife my mother-in-law's out of town. I think I'm going to sleep at my mother-in-law's house, try to nap around 7 o'clock, wake up, watch the baseball game, and then take another. It will never work.
It should work.
No, it won't.
In theory.
It works when you're 18. When you're my age,
what if you go sleep
no chance.
right after the show?
I thought about that too. I did. And I don't know. I might not stay here very long today. Like, it might be that I'm out of here by like 1 o'clock, try to get to the gym, and I try to start that nap at like 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because if I do that, then there's a chance I'll be asleep by 7 o'clock. Like, there's a chance that it'll happen. But, man, it's going to stink. It's going to stink trying to watch baseball.
Just watch those condensed games, you know.
I guess. 10:15 tonight on Masson 2, Dean Kramer and Logan Webb. If you happen to be in the New York or L.A. markets, you can watch it on MLB Network as well. Tomorrow night, 10 o'clock on Masson, Kyle Bradish and Anthony DeSclafani. And on Sunday, 4 o'clock on Masson 2, Tyler Wells. And they have not
announced it, at least before the show started. Was the last time I checked.
What that's all about. Maryland baseball, 1 o'clock today against Northeastern in the NCAA tournament. That's on ESPN Plus, and then we'll, should they win or lose, we'll figure out how the rest of the weekend goes. But I believe all of those games Saturday, it would all be on ESPN Plus until maybe on Monday. It would be on television if they're still playing like they were last year onto Monday of the regional. French Open coverage continues right now. It's actually been a pretty good one between Djokovic and Davidovich Fokina, but Djokovic is comfortably ahead. I think he did finish off the second set tiebreak, right?
He's not. Probably. I wish I was.
You were not paying attention. Okay.
No, I wasn't. Well, this is the problem Remember last year I was paying too much attention?
Yes, he won both the first and second set tiebreaks. So he's up 2 sets, but they both had to go to tiebreaks. It's been a pretty good match as I've been looking up at it. Francis Tiafoe will be in action tomorrow. Tomorrow it starts on Tennis Channel and then NBC at noon, Peacock at 3. Anything else this weekend? Tomorrow, Stanley Cup Final, Game 1, Panthers Golden Knights at 8 o'clock on both TNT and TBS. On Sunday, PLL season gets underway this weekend. A couple of games on ABC. NBA Finals, Game 2, Sunday night, 8 o'clock on ABC for the Heat and Nuggets. And I think everything else, you can go to glennclarkradio.com and find it there. Non-sports-wise, I don't even know what they're doing on ABC, on HBO on Sunday night.
It is, so does
it's that show at the weekend.
Yes,
yeah.
The Idol. The Idol. It is directed by Sam Levinson.
It's what's-his-face's daughter, too, right?
Yes, it is Johnny Depp's daughter. Her name is, I wrote it down, I already forget. It was like Rose something. Lily Rose.
Yeah.
Lily Rose.
Was Sam Levinson born in Baltimore, or?
I don't think so. Nobody likes Sam Levinson, apparently, at least in Hollywood. According to this is my friend, obviously, who lives in Hollywood that I was talking to.
Okay, but I don't really know if that's
Well, he's a big Nepo baby, apparently.
Well, I understand.
And so he did Euphoria, and apparently he's kind of
Euphoria is pretty
ass.
popular.
Well, he's kind of an ass on set, apparently. And, well, the issue with Euphoria is because, like, when you kind of think about it, it's like a weird show. That like it's because he wrote a show about a bunch of high schoolers having sex and doing drugs and then overdosing.
I mean,
and now this show,
Shameless is about a bunch of high schoolers having sex with adults, and nobody really seemed to
There you
have
go.
that big.
Maybe this is just my friend. Maybe he's.
I might just be your friend.
But apparently that's what The Idol is. It is just The Weeknd having a ton of sex with Lily Rose Depp, and
is she of age?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay, well then
at least at least the actor.
Why am I supposed to
is.
be bothered by that?
I don't know. Well, because it's just because why does Sam Levinson keep doing these shows where it borders on softcore porn?
I don't know. I think they're popular. Euphoria is pretty effing popular, bro.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, what do you want me to say here?
I don't know. I'm just
like why? Like, are shows not allowed to have sex?
You're checking it out.
No, I didn't watch Euphoria. This is not going to be.
You're checking out
me.
The Idol.
Although I
You
don't.
said you're
I need to
into it.
figure out because Sam Levinson is Barry Levinson's son, of course. Barry Levinson's a Baltimore icon. I just don't know if Sam Levinson was born in Baltimore or not. So I don't know whether he's one of us. Like Barry obviously is very much one of us. And if but I'm assuming that Barry Levinson moved to Hollywood at a certain point or to California. So I'm going to guess that Sam Levinson wasn't born in Baltimore. But if he was, then we have an obligation to support him.
All it says is that he was just born in the U.S.
Doesn't help me at all.
No, it doesn't.
Where was Sam Levinson?
At least that's according to his Wikipedia. Well, you want to move on or you want to keep figuring out Sam Levinson? There's actually not a whole lot outside of The Idol.
Much, no.
The Eric Andre Show returns to Adult Swim on midnight on Sunday. So check out Cartoon Network for the return of Season 6 of Eric Andre Show.
I love Eric Andre.
I love Eric Andre.
By the way, how bad was it when they had to do Mike Breen had to do that promo last night for whatever that dumb show is, and he was like, Eric Andre. It's really bad. Really bad.
Fear the Walking Dead, and let's see. Tonight is going to be Searching for Soul Food, new series on Hulu. Just Alyssa Reynolds, she's searching for soul food around the world. Just a new cooking show, and that is pretty much it. TLC Forever, documentary about the music group.
I love
TLC Saturday night on Lifetime.
Then it's not good.
But it's TLC. There's gonna play
but
TLC songs.
they do these types of things. It probably is not authorized if it's on Lifetime.
Oh,
so
okay.
there might not be TLC songs in it.
At least in the trailer, they had TLC.
All right, then maybe it is authorized then. I don't know, but they do a few of those where it ain't. It is very much not authorized. All right, very good. Everything else, find at glennclarkradio.com. When does Winning Time start?
That's the Lakers one?
Yeah, because I thought
not this week.
I thought that Winning Time and Righteous Gemstones were both coming back to HBO soon. So I don't. Is this a series? Is this a limited series? Is this like a
The Idol?
Yeah.
I guess they're just gonna see where it goes. It's just right now. It just says
I thought
series.
Winning
It
Time was
wasn't
coming
described
back
as
like
limited.
soon, maybe after the NBA Finals. And I thought Gemstones was supposed to be back in the summer at some point for our Sunday night.
Just says
HBO
some point this
viewing.
summer. It looks like they still don't have at least the release date yet
For
when they want
Winning Time?
for Winning Time.
Okay.
Maybe they're waiting for something or
No.
I'm not sure.
All right. It's a good show. I like that show.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Thanks today to Stan the Fan. Thanks also to the great Jon Miller, the great Dave Johnson. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab at glennclarkradio.com. I will be on tomorrow noon to 3 on 105.7 The Fan. My buddy Eric Arditi, Barstool RDT, is going to be hanging out with me, sitting in on that show.
Nice.
And
so
then, of course,
will I.
Oh, really?
'Cause I'll be learning how to run that board.
Well, look at you. Look at you. Maybe you can help me with some booking. Maybe you can help me out in that department because that got thrown on me very last minute, and I was not prepared. I don't think we have anything. I think our current number of guests, I mean, other than the fact that Arditi's going to be in
I'll sit
studio.
in with you.
Right. No, I was looking for guests. No offense. I might have something for you to do on the show, though. I might have something for you. We'll see. Do you know who you're producing with?
It's Kyle.
Kyle, I like Kyle.
Yes.
Kyle's a good, not Kyle Ottenheimer, our former producer, Kyle from The Fan, who I like. I might have the two of you involved in a segment. I have an idea for something. I'll talk to you about that. And then Rita and I will, of course, be on 1 to 4 on Sunday on 105.7 The Fan as well. Then we'll be back on Monday, Stuff and Things. Don't forget the guys are on tomorrow morning. Oh, no Bat Around tomorrow morning. They're off this week. They are off this week, back the following Saturday.
Paul's just that mad about the Orioles losing 4-6.
I think it's the Jorge Mateo thing he's that worked up about. He
Him not
really,
playing. He wants Mateo
really
in
wants
center.
Jorge Mateo in center field for some bizarre reason. Love Paul. Love him. But don't know what that's all about. All right. Thanks to everybody at Pressbox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including AJ Michaels, Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, Costa Sin, All-American Lacrosse, Birdland Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great weekend. Go Birds. Go Maryland baseball. Duke sucks.